Originally, Qin Chen really didn't want to get involved between the two. He was too lazy to care what Yu Changxu's purpose was in inviting him. Was she trying to use Li Kunyun's hand to teach him a lesson? Or was she trying to use him to avoid Li Kunyun? He didn't want to get involved in any of it. However, Li Kunyun's words made Qin Chen change his mind. His gaze turned cold, like a long sword, sharp and unmatched. You are interfering too much. Where I, Qin Chen, want to go and whether I have business or not, is none of your concern. You. The sinister smile on Li Kunyun's face suddenly froze, and he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He stared at Qin Chen viciously, his body radiating a dense killing intent. He cursed in his heart, since you are so ungrateful, don't blame me for being ruthless. You're just an ant. If I have the chance, I will let you know what it means to regret it deeply. Yu Changxu hesitated for a moment and said, then let's set off together. At this moment, she felt a little regretful in her heart. She had indeed invited Qin Chen with the idea of making Li Kunyun hostile towards Qin Chen and giving him a lesson, but more than that, she didn't want to be with Li Kunyun. Li Kunyun had been following her these days, making her feel uncomfortable all over. In comparison, although she also extremely disliked Qin Chen, for some reason, after seeing Qin Chen earlier, she actually felt very close to him. But now, seeing the dense killing intent blooming in Li Kunyun's eyes, Yu Changxu felt regret again. She just wanted someone to teach Qin Chen a lesson for her, but she didn't want to kill Qin Chen. However, Li Kunyun had obviously already resented Qin Chen, and he would definitely try his best to deal with Qin Chen next. Li Kunyun alone was nothing, but the Lixian sect behind Li Kunyun could not be ignored. If a conflict really broke out, the Darky Kingdom would not be able to protect Qin Chen at all. Be careful later. Li Kunyun is a petty person who will always seek revenge for even the smallest grievance. If you can endure it, try not to start a conflict. After all, the Lixian sect he belongs to is powerful, and the Darky Kingdom cannot afford to offend him at all. Feeling guilty, Yu Changxu couldn't help but transmit her voice to Qin Chen. Hearing the voice transmission, Qin Chen was stunned for a moment. This little girl was actually concerned about him. He laughed and said, don't worry, he's just a clown. Don't take him to heart. Yu Changxu was speechless. Was this guy really thick-skinned? A clown. Li Kunyun's cultivation was not particularly strong, but his strength was quite amazing, not comparable to ordinary disciples from the 5 nations. However, since she had already reminded him, Yu Changxu didn't say anything more. She would just pay attention later and try to prevent the two from having a conflict. The 3 of them traveled very fast, quickly approaching Tianwu City. After half a day, Tianwu City in the distance appeared in front of them. This Tianwu City was built specifically for the ancient southern capital, so its history was not very long, but the road construction was well arranged and very elegant. Li Kunyun, where have you been? We've been waiting for you for a long time. As soon as they entered Tianwu City, a clear and cold voice came. In the distance, a woman wearing a crimson robe walked over. Her face had distinct angles and short hair. Her appearance was average, but she gave people a sense of sharpness. Especially the aura on her body, it was strong and suffocating, giving people a sense of oppression. Early stage Xuan realm martial artist. Qin Chen's eyes narrowed. The other party was also young, only in her early 20s, but she had actually entered the Xuan realm. Senior Sister Hua. Seeing the person who came, Li Kunyun hurriedly bowed respectfully. HMPH. You're too slow. Where have you been all these days? The woman called Senior Sister Hua glanced at Yu Changxu and Qin Chen, revealing disdain between her brows, and said, always mixing with these disciples from the 5 nations. If other forces see it, where will we put the face of our Lixian sect? Come with me. With a cold snort, the red-clothed woman turned around and was about to lead the way. Senior Sister Hua, I still have something to deal with. You tell me where the sect's residence is, and I'll go there myself later. After hesitating for a moment, Li Kunyun said. He didn't want Qin Chen and Yu Changxu to be alone together. The red-clothed woman turned around, her face sinking. As soon as you and Elder Li arrived in the 5 nations, you went to other places, saying you were going to see old friends. The leading elder is already a little dissatisfied. Now that the eldest senior brother is about to arrive, we all have to go out of the city to welcome him. Are you sure you're not coming? Eldest senior brother is coming. There was an obvious hint of shock in Li Kunyun's eyes. He glanced at Yu Changxiu, and then said to the red-clothed woman, "Okay, senior sister Hua, please wait a moment. I'll explain a few things and leave with you immediately." It seemed that the eldest senior brother's status in his heart was even higher than that of the sect elder. Coming to Yu Changxiu, Li Kunyun said, "Changxiu, go to the sect's residence with me. When the time comes, I'll introduce you to our Lixian sect's eldest senior brother. Our eldest senior brother is the most outstanding genius even in the Dewei dynasty. Sorry, I still have something to do here, so I won't go with you. Also, I've said it many times, please don't call me Changxiu." Yu Changxiu frowned. Li Kunyun looked embarrassed and nodded, but he didn't force her. He turned to Qin Chen and said coldly, "Come with me for a moment, I have something to say to you. If you have something to say, you can just say it here." Li Kunyun turned his back to Yu Changxiu, his eyes sharp, glaring at Qin Chen, and lowered his voice angrily. "Boy, I've been tolerate you for a long time. I advise you to leave Changxiu immediately, otherwise, I will let you know what's good for you. Don't think about a toad wanting to eat swan meat. Changxiu is not someone a lowly commoner from the 5 nations like you deserves." Between his words, Li Kunyun's eyes spewed out a terrifying divine light, and a terrifying aura rose from his body, suppressing Qin Chen tightly. "Get lost." Spitting out 2 words, ignoring Li Kunyun's pressure, Qin Chen turned to Yu Changxiu and smiled. "Changxiu, let's go." Yu Changxiu's face turned red, and she was annoyed in her heart, hating him so much that her teeth itched. This guy actually called her Changxiu too, it was really hateful, but in the end, she still followed Qin Chen. She really didn't want to stay with Li Kunyun for another second. That hateful brat. Li Kunyun roared in his heart, his eyes full of anger and killing intent, wishing he could tear Qin Chen into pieces. "Let's go." The red-clothed woman's voice came from behind. Li Kunyun's face returned to calm, he glanced at Qin Chen's leaving figure with resentment, and turned to follow the red-clothed woman. "All right, let's say goodbye here too." Yu Changxiu and Qin Chen came to a street corner and said coldly. "What? You're planning to run away after using me? There's no such thing." Yu Changxiu's face turned red and said, "Who used you?" Her voice was low, without any confidence. "Let's go, I have something I want to ask you." Qin Chen smiled, too lazy to explain, and turned to leave. Yu Changxiu hesitated for a moment and followed. After all, she had indeed used Qin Chen before, and she had also brought danger to Qin Chen. Now that she turned around and left, it was really unkind, and it wasn't her style. Whether it was Qin Chen or Yu Changxiu, it was their first time in Gufeng City, and they curiously took in the local customs and conditions. Along the way, the two saw many young disciples of similar age to them, and many of them had cultivation bases that were not weak, which shocked them secretly. Among the 5 nations, so many young experts have suddenly appeared. Qin Chen said thoughtfully. Yu Changxiu said, "Actually, the first round of the 5 nations tournament only selects some experts from geniuses who have appeared in the last 5 years, and this second round of the competition will naturally gather many previous geniuses and even other powerful experts. These people's strengths are already stronger than the geniuses participating in the first round of the competition, not to mention that this time, there are other forces from the Great Wei dynasty outside the 5 nations participating." What exactly is this Great Wei dynasty? The Great Wei dynasty is a vast dynasty outside of our 5 nations. A portion of its territory borders our 5 nations. The part that borders our 5 nations is called Xuan Prefecture. This Lixian city is an extremely powerful sect in Xuan Prefecture. It is a hegemon in Xuan Prefecture, controlling many cities in Xuan Prefecture. An elder Li in the Lixian sect is familiar with my father. This Li Kunyun is elder Li's nephew, so he is with me. This person is narrow-minded and vindictive. Since you have offended him, he will not let you off easily, so you must be careful. As for the others, I am not very clear. Yu Changxiu revealed a longing look. The land of the 5 nations was too small. In her plan, after the Five Nations tournament ended, she would leave the land of the Five Nations and head to the Great Wei dynasty, so she had some understanding of it, but not much. From what I know, in the Great Wei dynasty, anyone under the age of 24 who has not reached the early stage of the profound realm is not considered a genius. Even if they reach the early stage of the profound realm, they can only be considered to be at the starting line. Immediately, Yu Changxu continued with emotion, feeling quite speechless. You must know that in the Northwest Five Nations, being able to reach the late stage peak of the heaven realm at the age of 24 is considered outstanding, and being able to break through to the early stage of the profound realm is enough to become famous in the Five Nations, but in the Great Wei dynasty, it is nothing. This time, forces from the Great Wei dynasty have interfered in the Five Nations. I don't know how many people from our Five Nations will be able to successfully enter the ancient southern capital. I'm afraid there will be very few. Yu Changxu sighed. Qin Chen smiled indifferently. You are thinking too much. Although the Great Wei dynasty is strong, it is not necessarily that great. In the eyes of higher level forces, it is also like an ant. As a martial artist, as long as you have a heart that constantly strives for progress, even if you are born humble, there will always be a moment when you soar through the nine heavens. Qin Chen's words were like a great bell, echoing in Yu Changxu's mind, causing her delicate body to tremble, and she couldn't help but look over. At the moment when she looked up, the sun was just above Qin Chen's head, and a ray of sunlight fell on him impartially, making him seem unlike someone from the mortal world, causing Yu Changxu to stare blankly, her heart pounding inexplicably. Let's go. There is a restaurant in front. I'll go and find out some information. Listening Wind Pavilion, one of the most famous restaurants in Gufeng City. The restaurant has 3 floors, each of which can accommodate a large number of guests. It is the area most frequented by young talents and top martial artists from the Five Nations. In the hall on the 3rd floor, a group of talented young men are currently talking animatedly. Have you heard? This year's Five Nations tournament not only has geniuses from our Five Nations, but now people from the Great Wei dynasty outside have somehow found out about the ancient southern capital. The Great Wei dynasty has sent many top geniuses to try to get a share of the pie in the ancient southern capital. HMPH. These people are really too much. The ancient southern capital is the remains and secret realm of our Northwest Five Nations. Why should we let them occupy the position? In my opinion, our Northwest Five Nations should join hands to drive them out. Do you think our Five Nations don't want to? There's no way. What kind of force is the Great Wei dynasty? It can destroy our Northwest Five Nations in minutes. Although it is restricted by the order of the continent and cannot directly attack our Five Nations, it can easily do something, kill a few top experts, and who can say anything? Alas, we are still too weak. That's not necessarily true. HMPH. In recent years, our Five Nations have also discovered the extraordinary nature of the ancient southern capital, and the major forces have also made preparations. Haven't you noticed that in recent years, the age of the geniuses who went to the Blood Spirit Pool in the first round of the Five Nations tournament has become younger and younger? Hush. Be careful, there are people from foreign forces here. If they hear the news about the Blood Spirit Pool will definitely be divided up. Someone looked alert. That person sneered. Since the people from the Great Wei dynasty have already come to our Five Nations and know about the ancient southern capital, do you think they can't even find out about the Blood Spirit Pool? That's right. This brother, what you just said seems to be true. Take the biggest winner of the first round of this year's Five Nations tournament, the Great Qi Nation. Of the 8 places to enter the Blood Spirit Pool, 4 are actually 16 or 17-year-old teenagers. It is indeed very rare. In the past, in order to get a good result in the second round, the countries basically sent 20-year-old geniuses and experts. Why is this? Someone asked curiously. Actually, all the countries have already understood that the effect of the Blood Spirit Pool is to improve the talent of martial artists, but if they are baptized in their 20s, although the effect is the best and can give the countries a greater advantage in the second round of the competition, it is not a long-term solution, because they can often only participate in one competition. When the ancient southern capital appears for the second time, they will all be over 24 years old and unable to enter the ancient southern capital again. The man paused and continued, but it is different to let 16 or 17-year-olds accept the baptism. The first time they enter the ancient southern capital, they may not have much achievement, and they may not even have the qualifications to enter the ancient southern capital, but 5 years later, they will still be under 24 years old. By then, after 5 years of growth, they will be far more terrifying than ordinary geniuses. The probability of obtaining inheritance the second time they enter the ancient southern capital will naturally be much greater. Oh, it seems that is indeed the case. No wonder in recent years, the countries have lowered the age of the geniuses in the national competitions. The man smiled faintly, that's for sure. Now the top geniuses in our 5 nations are all like this. Like Yuan Feng of the Great Liang Nation, he was only 18 5 years ago, and he had already accepted the blood spirit pool baptism. Although he did not obtain any amazing inheritance in the ancient southern capital that time, he also received amazing training and baptism. It is said that he broke through to the profound realm 2 years ago, and now I am afraid that he is very strong. Now that 5 years have passed, he is only 23 years old. Hearing that he is coming back to participate in this ancient southern capital competition, with geniuses like Yuan Feng, our 5 nations may not be much worse than that Great Wei dynasty. That makes sense. That's right. With Tianzhou like Yuan Feng, what can the Great Wei dynasty do? The martial artists of the Northwest 5 nations present immediately regained their confidence and looked quite excited. Shameless boasting, just a few clowns, and you want to be compared with the geniuses of our Great Wei dynasty. Simply laughable, frogs in a well. Suddenly, a mocking voice came, resounding in everyone's ears, attracting angry gazes from everyone. Several young men and women with extraordinary appearances sat at a table not far away, a sneer playing on their lips. The clothes these people wore were clearly different from those of the 5 nations, and their aura was also completely different, obviously coming from the powerful Wei dynasty outside the 5 nations. What did you say? A young genius from one of the 5 nations couldn't help but snort coldly. What? Is that not right? One of the blonde men scanned the crowd, a condescending look in his eyes. The Northwest 5 nations are just a small force on the continent, a remote corner. Moreover, due to their low potential, they are very closed off, and no one cares about them. How could geniuses appear in such a place? Your so-called Yuan Feng and other geniuses, although their strength is not bad, are nothing in Xuanzhou, let alone in the entire Wei dynasty. If they are not frogs in a well, then what are they? Hee. Brother Wu, why bother talking so much nonsense with these commoners? Any young martial artist from our Xuanzhou can sweep across these Northwest 5 nations. Even a few of us might be able to reach the pinnacle here. That's right. Even if they break through to the Xuan level, so what? The geniuses of our Wei dynasty can all fight beyond their level. The cultivation techniques and martial skills they practice far surpass these country bumpkins. Even if their cultivation is inferior, it is easy to abuse and kill them. This group of people, facing the angry gazes of the crowd, spoke eloquently, smiles on their lips, with deep disdain in their expressions. That kind of contempt came from the deepest part of their bones, causing the blood of the geniuses of the 5 nations present to rush to their faces. The young man from the 5 nations who had roared earlier had a livid face, his eyes filled with anger, and he roared, "You are talking nonsense. With just a few of you, you want to run wild in our 5 nations, and even dream of reaching the pinnacle. You simply don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Hearing this, the blonde young man turned his head to look, his eyes cold and disdainful. Could it be that you are also one of the geniuses of these 5 nations? May I ask your name? Zhao Cheng of the Great Zhao Kingdom. The man announced his name, causing an uproar among the surrounding crowd. Zhao Cheng can be considered a famous expert in the Northwest 5 nations. He has a great reputation in the Great Zhao Kingdom. In the previous 5 nations tournament, he almost entered the finals of the ancient southern capital. Over the years, his cultivation has obviously become even more terrifying. It seems that he is indeed a genius from the 5 major powers of these Northwest 5 nations. No wonder he is so agitated. The geniuses of the Wei dynasty all laughed loudly, completely ignoring Zhao Cheng's glaring eyes. HMPH. Putting on an act. Are all the so-called geniuses of your Dewey dynasty only good at talking? Do you dare to fight me? Zhao Cheng was even more furious and shouted coldly. What's there to be afraid of? It's just that swords and sabers have no eyes. If I hurt you, don't cry. The blonde young man picked up his wine glass, took a sip, glanced at him, and revealed a look of contempt. HMPH. All talk and no action. Take this. Zhao Cheng shouted angrily and pounced forward. Clang. His weapon was a black battle saber, infused with true energy. A terrifying saber energy burst out in the restaurant, turning into a roaring tiger that pounced towards the blonde young man. Break. The blonde young man didn't even draw his weapon. His right hand formed a claw, reaching out into the air and grabbing fiercely onto the tiger's head, actually causing the saber energy transformed tiger to be unable to move. Then, with a twist, the tiger shattered with a bang. The exploding saber energy shot out in all directions, causing many people around to change color. Is this your confidence? The blonde young man picked up his wine glass with his left hand, took a sip, and sneered. Damn it! Heavenly saber 9 slashes. Zhao Cheng's face flushed red, his entire body's true energy was raised to the extreme, the clothes on his body moved silently, and a terrifying saber energy rose from the battle saber in his hands, slashing down fiercely towards the blonde young man. Shatter. The blonde young man still didn't move, his right hand clenched into a fist, slightly behind him, and then he punched out fiercely. With a bang, the hall of the restaurant let out a thunderous roar. The black fist shadow arrived later but struck first, smashing the black saber shadow with a bang, and then heavily hitting Zhao Cheng's chest. Bang! The clothes on his chest exploded, Zhao Cheng's battle saber flew out, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body crashed through the window of the restaurant's third-floor hall and fell heavily onto the street. Is this the genius of the Northwest 5 nations? So vulnerable? The blonde young man sneered, causing the other young men to burst into laughter. Seeing this, all the geniuses of the Northwest 5 nations in the third-floor hall lowered their heads, daring to be angry but not daring to speak. Zhao Cheng was not an unknown person in the Great Zhao Kingdom, he could be called famous. There were definitely not many people in the Great Zhao Kingdom who were stronger than him. Even he had been defeated, and so thoroughly and embarrassingly, how dare others go up? Looking at the other party's appearance, it seemed that they had only displayed a portion of their strength, and they had easily defeated Zhao Cheng. They could go up, and they were not afraid of losing face, but if they were not even as good as Zhao Cheng, they would only lose all the face of the 5 nations. It seems that the geniuses of these 5 nations are only so-so. Ha ha ha. The more the crowd was like this, the more arrogant these geniuses became, looking down on everyone with their heads held high, their posture unparalleled. One of them laughed. Wu Yao, it seems that your cultivation has not been wasted recently. In that case, you can also get a share of the pie in the ancient southern capital ruins of these 5 nations. The person who made the move was not considered top-notch in Xuanzhou, but he was also quite famous. He came this time also to look for some opportunities. Seeing that the geniuses of the 5 nations were so weak, a group of people couldn't help but have their confidence greatly boosted, and they became even more contemptuous of the 5 nations. The blonde young man Wu Yao said indifferently, it's just a clown, why bother mentioning him? Let's not talk about him, come, let's continue drinking. But there is one thing I have to say, although this ancient southern capital ruins appeared in these Northwest 5 nations, it has really been ruined by these 5 nations over the years. In my opinion, this time, everyone from the 5 nations should just go back. With the geniuses of my Dewey dynasty here, it is impossible to get even one spot. Continuing to stay will only be embarrassing, so why bother looking for trouble? Saying that, the blonde young man Wu Yao scanned the 3rd floor, the contempt between his eyebrows overflowing, unable to be concealed. The geniuses of the 5 nations present on the 3rd floor were very aggrieved, their faces flushed red. In the past, although the 5 nations competed, at least there was give and take. They had never been so embarrassed as they were today. They couldn't wait to find a place to burrow into. Many people even wanted to turn around and leave, but thinking that the departure would only encourage the other party's arrogance, they had to suppress their anger and grit their teeth. A corner of the 3rd floor of the restaurant. Qin Chen glanced at Yu Changxiu and said, Do you want to make a move, or should I? Being humiliated at the door and choosing to be low-key was not Qin Chen's style. Although he was only a disciple of the Darky Kingdom, being born in the Five Nations meant being part of a whole. Even if he didn't have much sense of belonging, he couldn't tolerate outsiders provoking and belittling them like this. Martial artists cultivate to build up their spirit. If they still swallow their anger in this situation, then they might as well simply abandon their cultivation and go home to farm. Yu Changxu looked at Qin Chen in surprise. At this moment, Qin Chen gave her an extremely strong shock. Those domineering words, the cold gaze, were completely different from when he was in the blood spirit pool and the demon ancestor mountain range. Yu Changxu couldn't help but wonder, which one was the real him, and what kind of person was he? Just as Yu Changxu was about to reply, footsteps suddenly came from the second floor, and a cold voice sounded. I, Wang Qiming, will fight you. Yu Changxu smiled softly. It seems we don't need to take action. Wang Qiming. Qin Chen looked up in astonishment, and saw a young man with a battle saber hanging from his waist walking up from the second floor. Who else could it be but Wang Qiming? After not seeing him for many days, Wang Qiming's cultivation had actually broken through to the late stage of the heaven realm. His face was resolute, and his eyes were like a battle saber. As soon as he came up, he glared coldly at the people of the Great Wei dynasty, as if in his eyes, there was nothing else besides these few people. That kind of sharpness made everyone change color. If I remember correctly, this person should be from your Great Qi Kingdom. Yu Changxu glanced at Qin Chen and said with a light smile. Qin Chen nodded. Wang Qiming was one of the few people he favored in the Great Qi Kingdom. At a young age, he was able to comprehend the intent of the saber. His comprehension of saber techniques was second to none, no matter where he was placed. Who are you? The blonde young man, Wu Yao, sneered. Great Qi Kingdom, Wang Qiming. Wang Qiming had just arrived at Tingfeng Pavilion and heard the commotion on the third floor, especially Wu Yao's arrogant words. How could he endure it? Hey, it seems you are also unconvinced. Another swordsman. What real swordsman can come out of these Northwest Five Nations? Just a bunch of children playing with big knives, Wu Yao said dismissively, his posture arrogant. In terms of age, Wang Qiming was 3 or 4 years younger than Zhao Cheng, and Wu Yao looked down on him even more. Wang Qiming's expression remained unchanged, and he said indifferently, anyone can talk big, if you have the guts, fight me. HMPH, it seems I was too merciful just now. Since you are seeking death yourself, don't blame me. Wu Yao snorted coldly and looked around. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge this young master? Come on together, so I don't have to keep dealing with you one by one later. The battle with Zhao Cheng made Wu Yao even more confident. His posture was unrestrained, and he despised everyone present. If he could defeat many geniuses from the Five Nations with his own strength, his reputation in the Great Wei dynasty would definitely soar. The crowd in the hall was angry, and everyone clenched their weapons, but no one stood up. Not to mention that they were not Wu Yao's opponents. Even if they could win, it would be dishonorable to deal with one person with so many people, and it wouldn't be anything glorious. You're thinking too much. To deal with you, I alone am enough. Wang Qiming's expression remained calm, like a rock, standing firm since ancient times. He could see that Wu Yao was by no means an ordinary genius. The aura on his body was like the scorching sun in the sky, with a strong will to invade, but he was not an easy person to deal with either. After the preliminary round of the Five Nations tournament, he devoted himself to hard cultivation, and his cultivation soared from the peak of the early stage of the Heaven Realm to the late stage of the Heaven Realm in one fell swoop. The difficulties he experienced were beyond the understanding of ordinary people. Moreover, as a swordsman, what he needs is a heart that moves forward without hesitation. Not to mention facing a young genius from the Great Wei dynasty. Even if he faced the top experts of the Great Wei dynasty, he would not have the slightest timidity or retreat. Take this. As soon as the words fell, the battle saber at Wang Qiming's waist was suddenly unsheathed. Clang! It was as if a cold wind swept through the hall, and everyone shrank their bodies. Immediately afterwards, a snow-bright saber light appeared in their vision. The saber light was dazzling, like a flash of lightning, appearing out of thin air in front of Wu Yao, and suddenly slashing down. Interesting. Wu Yao raised his eyebrows, revealing surprise. His right hand bent into a claw and suddenly stretched out, unexpectedly grabbing the oncoming saber light like lightning. With a twist, crack, the saber light shattered, and the strong force caused invisible saber marks to appear on the ground. The surrounding people hurriedly mobilized the true energy to protect the restaurant. Fortunately, the two were only sparring, and did not push the true energy to the extreme. Otherwise, the strong force would be enough to tear the entire three-story restaurant apart. Is this your attack? That's all. I don't know where your arrogance and self-confidence come from. After shattering Wang Qiming's attack with one claw, Wu Yao was still sitting upright, calm and composed, his eyes wanton and arrogant. I hope you can still be so confident next. Swish swish swish. Wang Qiming's face remained unchanged. He gripped the battle saber tightly with both hands, and slashed out several times horizontally and vertically. Several amazing saber lights appeared in the void. At the edge of the saber light, the air was cut so hot and distorted, and shot towards several directions around Wu Yao, completely blocking all his angles, making it impossible to dodge. Wu Yao's eyes narrowed, the calmness on his face disappeared, slightly surprised. The other party's saber technique was extremely tricky, and at this time, it blocked all parts of his body. If he was still sitting in front of the wine table as before, waving casually, he would definitely be injured. You do have some skill, no wonder you are so confident, but it's a pity it's not enough. Creak. The chair was pushed back. Wu Yao had already stood up at some point. On his hands, finger cuts appeared. His hands crossed, like phantoms flashing past. Puff 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 puff. All the saber lights attacking him were shattered by the finger shadows. You've been attacking all along, it's my turn. Taking a step forward, Wu Yao's mouth outlined a cold smile, and he punched out with force. Boom car, the void shook, and endless fist power was like mountains collapsing, stirring up an amazing momentum, making it difficult for everyone present to breathe, and they all changed color. It was the punch that defeated Zhao Cheng before. With the power that Wang Qiming showed before, this punch was simply difficult to resist. Cut. Slash. Wang Qiming's voice and expression remained unchanged, his eyes were calm, as if in his heart, he never knew what surprise was. He raised the battle saber high with both hands and slashed down fiercely. Useless. Although the difference between you and my cultivation is not big, the gap in the quality of true energy is too far. The 5 nations are just a barbaric and backward place, and the cultivation techniques are all weak and unbearable, belonging to second-rate goods. A mocking voice came, and the frivolity at the corner of Wu Yao's mouth was even greater. His and the other party's cultivation were both in the late stage of the heaven realm, but the cultivation techniques they practiced were too different. With the same move, he only needed to mobilize less than 1/3 of his true energy to easily crush the other party. Is that so? Break it for me. A cold snort came. Wang Qiming's eyes were without waves. The sharp saber light suddenly rose with a palpitating aura. The next moment, puff, the fist power was instantly broken by the saber light, fragile and vulnerable. The saber light split open the fist power and continued to strike towards Wu Yao. What? The smile on Wu Yao's mouth solidified. In shock, he even placed his hands in front of his body to resist the saber light. With a bang, his arms trembled violently, and an even more palpitating power of destruction came head-on, causing Wu Yao to stagger back several steps. It's actually the intent of the saber. Raising his head, Wu Yao's hair became disheveled, and anger flashed in his eyes. Obviously, the previous loss made him extremely annoyed. Ha ha ha. Wu Yao, you can't be losing to a bumpkin from the 5 nations, can you? Several people around Wu Yao chuckled, watching leisurely. They all teased Wu Yao, enjoying the show without the slightest worry. Humph, what are you guys blathering about? Eat your food. Wu Yao snorted and looked at Wang Qiming. I really didn't expect that you, at such a young age, have already comprehended sword intent. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. Sword intent is the core standard for measuring a swordsman. A swordsman, no matter how high their cultivation is, cannot be considered a true swordsman in the eyes of the world if they have not comprehended sword intent. However, most swordsmen need to reach the profound level and be over 30 years old, having immersed themselves in swordsmanship for many years and truly understood it, before they can comprehend sword intent. Wang Qiming looks only 17 or 18 years old, yet he has already comprehended sword intent. Even in the Dewei dynasty, he can be considered a genius. Unfortunately, it's far from enough in front of me. Taking a step forward, Wu Yao's aura suddenly became deep and heavy, as if his body contained a great sun. A terrifying aura suddenly spread out, making many martial artists from the 5 nations struggle to breathe, their eyes filled with horror. Take my palm strike, great sun-shattering fist. Blinding golden light flowed on Wu Yao's palm, turning into a dazzling scorching sun. The great sun rotated, crushing towards Wang Qiming not far away with an astonishing aura, its momentum shocking the heavens. Hate heaven sword technique. Wang Qiming shouted coldly, not giving an inch. He gripped his saber tightly, and an even more fierce sword intent burst out from his body, layer upon layer, filled with endless anger and domineering power. Boom! Crack! Palm and saber collided, and scorching saber energy swept across the area. The intense force made the surrounding martial artists activate the true energy to suppress the terrifying aura that was spreading. The entire tavern creaked under this power, as if it would collapse at any moment. The cold smile on Wu Yao's lips deepened. His hands turned into arcs, and his whole body seemed to be embracing a great sun, slowly pushing it forward. Like a large millstone, it rotated violently. Crack! 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 The saber energy Wang Qiming unleashed was constantly being worn away by this strike, emitting a creaking groan. What a strong power! It can even obliterate sword intent. What kind of power is this? The audience was in an uproar, with exclamations coming one after another. The exchange between Wu Yao and Zhao Cheng just now was too fast, fleeting in an instant, so that everyone didn't feel much. Now that they carefully sensed the other party's power, they realized how terrifying it was. The destructive aura that melted everything made everyone's heart tremble. Yu Changxiu raised an eyebrow and said, I didn't expect your great Qi kingdom to have such a genius. I didn't pay much attention during the preliminary rounds of the 5 Nations tournament. With this cultivation, if he were placed in the semi-finals of previous 5 Nations tournaments, he would have a chance to enter the top 10. Wang Qiming's talent is indeed good, but he is still a bit immature. He wants to become stronger too much, so that his sword intent has entered a wrong path. You can't see anything now, but if he continues like this, there will definitely be problems in the future. Qin Chen naturally knew Wang Qiming's strength. In Tianxing Academy, when he was initially unknown, he was able to rely on his amazing perseverance to become one of the top 4 in the Tianxing Academy's year-end exam, comparable to a group of powerful geniuses. After the preliminary rounds of the 5 Nations tournament, his talent was discovered and valued by the Great Qi Kingdom. The resources he obtained were far from what he could compare to before. With the support of a large amount of resources, his terrifying potential truly exploded, and one day was worth several days of work for other geniuses. On this point, there are basically few geniuses stronger than him. But Qin Chen still frowned. Wang Qiming's breakthrough can be said to be a culmination of accumulated knowledge, so there is nothing unexpected. However, in terms of sword intent, he has taken too big a step, and it is easy to have problems in the future. Yu Changxiu glanced at Qin Chen speechlessly. The tone of this comment seemed like he could see through everything, as if he himself was younger than Wang Qiming, right? But for some reason, seeing Qin Chen's serious expression and affirmative tone, Yu Changxiu actually had a trance in her heart, as if the person sitting next to her was not a teenager of the same age, but a master who had reached the pinnacle, making him look up to him. At this time, the situation on the field changed again. Suppressed by Wu Yao's fist power, Wang Qiming's expression remained unchanged. It was as if this person's mind was so firm that he would not change color even when facing the collapse of Mount Tai. An invisible aura rose from his body, causing people to change color when they glimpsed it. It was a bloodline. Heaven-severing slash. With an angry roar, the sword intent was even stronger, and a monstrous sword intent broke through the sky, standing proudly above the 9 heavens. HMPH. It seems that I can't do it without showing some trump cards. Wu Yao's expression was extremely solemn. The strength of these disciples from the 5 nations was far more terrifying than he imagined. With his cultivation, he prided himself on being able to kill ordinary early-stage profound-level martial artists in a place like the Five Nations. He didn't expect to suffer a loss at the hands of a teenager. Even if he defeated Wang Qiming now, if it spread among a group of geniuses in the Dewei dynasty, he would definitely be ridiculed. He couldn't help but feel annoyed. Extreme Radiance Fist. With a low roar, it was as if a great sun in Wu Yao's body exploded in an instant, and a majestic and extreme power burst out. On his right hand, the scorching sun burst forth, as if the sun was destroyed. At this moment, everyone present seemed to be under a scorching sun, with a sense of fear that they were powerless to resist. It's the Fist Dao intent. What a terrifying fist power. What level has this person reached in the realm of fist techniques? The crowd was shocked. Swordsmen have sword intent, swordsmen have sword intent, and fist techniques also have fist Dao intent. It's just that the fist Dao intent of fist techniques is not the same as sword intent and sword intent. Once comprehended, it is universal to any swordsmanship and swordsmanship, but it is related to the fist technique practiced. What kind of fist technique, then what kind of fist technique intent? Even Wu Yao's companions were dumbfounded, revealing a look of shock. One of them murmured, Wu Yao has actually comprehended the fist Dao intent. It seems that he came to these Northwest Five Nations this time with early preparations, wanting to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. It seems that we underestimated Wu Yao before. I just guarantee that with Wu Yao's strength, he may be able to sweep across this entire Northwest. Is there any need to say that? Fist Dao intent can only be mastered by practicing profound fist techniques. Wu Yao's Extreme Radiance Fist is one of the top fist techniques of Tianwu Mansion, and its rank is high profound level. I'm afraid it's difficult to find a fist technique more powerful than this one even if you search the entire Northwest Five Nations. Hee. Let's just watch carefully. This person's group of companions became even more smug, discussing animatedly. Break. Wu Yao's expression was cold, like a god under the dazzling light, and he punched out with force. Bang! The sword light that Wang Qiming slashed out could no longer hold on, and shattered in an instant. At the same time, he groaned, and his figure retreated. HMPH. With a cold snort, Wu Yao's eyes were indifferent, and he was unwilling to give up. Instead, the power on his hand was even stronger, and he grabbed towards Wang Qiming, wanting to give the other party a painful lesson. Suddenly, a sword light flashed. Puff! Wu Yao's fist power was cut into two pieces with one slash, and the fist power that lost the support of true energy instantly exploded and dissipated into nothingness. Who? With a shrinking pupil, Wu Yao shouted angrily and looked towards the corner, the killing intent boiling in his eyes. The sudden scene also startled everyone, drawing their attention. That's Yu Changxiu from the Qin sect. Who is that person beside her? It seems to be Qin Chen from the Great Qi Kingdom. What? Is that Qin Chen? The genius who killed Nian Wuji of the Ghost Immortal sect? A clamor arose in the hall of the restaurant, with everyone sizing up Qin Chen, even more so than they were paying attention to Yu Changxiu. Yu Changxiu was a top genius of the Qin sect, and with her stunning beauty, she had long been a prominent figure in the Northwest Five Nations. Almost everyone in the younger generation had heard of her. However, recently, Qin Chen of the Great Qi Kingdom had become a legendary figure in the Northwest Five Nations. The reason was none other than the news that Sovereign Nian Shuo of the Ghost Immortal sect had sent people to assassinate Qin Chen in the Great Qi Kingdom, but they had been killed instead. This news had already spread throughout the entire Northwest. For a time, all sorts of rumors were rampant, and everyone knew about this major event. The rumors about Qin Chen had never stopped. Some said that Nian Wuji of the Ghost Immortal sect had died at Qin Chen's hands in the Demon Ancestor Mountains. Others said that Qin Chen, in order to regain the title of the Qin family's #1 genius, did not hesitate to attack Qin Feng, killing his own brother and betraying the enemy, all to seize the Qin family's property. Various rumors abounded, and no one knew the truth, but many people still doubted Qin Chen's strength, believing that he was too young and could not possibly be a match for Nian Wuji and Qin Feng. Young Master Chen. Steadying himself, Wang Qiming also exclaimed, only then noticing Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu. It wasn't that his observation skills were lacking, but rather that he had initially been drawn to Wu Yao's attention. The third-floor hall was full of people, with countless young geniuses, and Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu were sitting in the most secluded corner, so he hadn't noticed them at first. The one who attacked just now should be Yu Changxiu. I heard that Yu Changxiu's talent is astonishing. Years ago, she comprehended the sword intent. No wonder she can unleash such a powerful sword. Ha ha ha, that's great. With Yu Changxiu here, let's see how arrogant these warriors from the Great Wei dynasty can be. That's right. Rumor has it that Yu Changxiu is the most outstanding genius to appear in the Lingqian sect in the past 100 years. She will definitely be able to vindicate our Northwest Five Nations. But why is she sitting with Qin Chen from the Great Qi Kingdom? The crowd was excited. They hadn't seen who had attacked earlier, only a flash of sword light. Plus, Yu Changxiu herself was famous for her sword skills, so they naturally assumed it was her who had made the move. Everyone seems to be mistaken. Glancing at Qin Chen, Yu Changxiu chuckled, a trace of shock still lingering between her brows. Only she had seen clearly that at the critical moment, Qin Chen had suddenly acted, stopping Wu Yao from harming anyone. Moreover, Qin Chen hadn't even drawn his sword, but had merely used a finger as a sword. The dazzling and astonishing sword light still lingered in Yu Changxiu's mind, and she couldn't forget it for a long time. HMPH. Do you people from the Five Nations like to launch sneak attacks in the dark? Wu Yao, leave this person to us. Several companions beside Wu Yao suddenly stood up, each with a cold expression, and pounced out. Boom. Various supreme arts were unleashed in the restaurant hall. Previously, Wu Yao had been showing off his power all along. His companions had long been eager to make a move, and now that they saw someone interfering, they couldn't wait to establish their prestige, so as to enhance their own reputation. A bunch of frogs in a well. Do you really think that there is no one in our Northwest Five Nations? Get back to your Great Wei dynasty. Yu Changxiu's eyes turned cold, and the long sword at her waist was suddenly unsheathed. Clang! The dazzling sword light illuminated the entire third-floor hall, and an astonishing sword aura burst forth from the long sword in Yu Changxiu's right hand. The next moment, the entire third floor of the restaurant trembled violently. The astonishing sword aura was unmatched, like the sun, making it almost impossible for everyone to open their eyes. They only felt an endless sword aura enveloping them, and that sharp and unparalleled edge seemed to tear them to pieces, leaving them no place to survive. Its sword intent, especially the several disciples of the Great Wei dynasty located in the center of the sword force, even their souls were trembling. The endless sword force swept everything away, causing their previous unrestrained confidence to completely vanish and shatter. PFFT. The attacks of the heavens instantly dissolved under the sword force. Several people flew upside down, landing on the ground in a sorry state, glaring at Yu Changxiu in shock and anger. What? A single sword repelled several people. As expected of Yu Changxiu, too strong. The crowd was shaken, and the clamor almost lifted the roof. Everyone was greatly invigorated. In their opinion, these people were geniuses from the Great Wei dynasty after all, and their cultivation must not be bad. But even so, such geniuses were actually repelled by Yu Changxiu with a single sword, with almost no effort at all. The number one genius of the Lingqian sect was indeed not living up to their name. Finally, someone had saved face for the Five Nations. The warriors of the Five Nations in the restaurant were all extremely excited, clenching their fists tightly. With this little strength, you dare to be arrogant here. Didn't you say that there is no one in our Five Nations? I am right here. If you can attack me, then you win. Ignoring the exclamations in the hall, Yu Changxiu's eyes were calm, and she lightly exhaled a fragrant breath towards the snow blade in her hand, saying coldly, "Too arrogant. Stop being so condescending. We were just careless." The blood rushed to their faces, and their expressions were so ashamed and angry that they were about to drip water. As geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty, they came here with a strong sense of superiority. How could they have imagined that they would be defeated by a disciple of the Five Nations, and what's more, the other party was a woman, which was simply a great shame. With an angry roar, several people once again rushed forward. This time, they did not dare to be careless. Each of them had a ferocious expression, and the true energy in their bodies was driven to the extreme. Boom! Several astonishing auras rose in the hall at the same time, like mountains collapsing and seawater flowing backward. The unrestrained and mighty true energy shocked everyone present, making it difficult for them to breathe, and they could hardly catch their breath. That kind of overbearingness was more than twice as strong as before, and they all looked at Yu Changxiu in horror. After all, the other party was a genius of the Great Wei dynasty, with extraordinary cultivation. Under the full force of their attack, could Yu Changxiu really resist it? Despite their worries, they saw that Yu Changxiu's expression remained unchanged, her eyes even more aloof. The long sword in her right hand suddenly drew a semicircle in the void, and stabbed out lightly. As this sword stabbed out, the void instantly seemed to be drawn into a vacuum. Everyone only felt that their hearts were clenched, beating violently. In their eyes, a dazzling sword light slashed out flatly. The next moment, PFFT. The attacks of the Great Wei dynasty geniuses all shattered, their bodies shook, and blood arrows shot out from their chests. How they came, how they flew upside down, and with a loud bang, they landed on the table, smashing the tables and chairs to pieces, each groaning in pain. The geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty are nothing more than this. Sheathing her sword, Yu Changxiu sneered. That free and unrestrained posture shocked everyone's hearts, made them dizzy, and left them with no place to hide. So strong. Is this the power of the #1 genius of the Lingtian sect? We can't catch up to them even if we ride a horse. The difference is too great. Many young geniuses present looked at Yu Changxiu, and they were all shocked by her strength and beauty, feeling humble and insignificant, like an ugly duckling compared to a swan, difficult to reach. What kind of man could be worthy of such a peerless woman? Thinking of this, everyone's eyes fell on Qin Chen, who was opposite Yu Changxiu, and they felt so depressed that they were about to vomit blood. They didn't understand how Yu Changxiu, with her status, could be sitting with such a guy, looking so intimate. Their hearts were bombarded with a million points of damage. Want to try again? Yu Changxiu glanced at the great geniuses of the De Wei dynasty, gently drank the wine in her glass, and exhaled like an orchid. Wu Yao's eyes flickered, and his heart trembled wildly. Yu Changxiu's sword just now was too powerful. Although it was not aimed at him, he had a feeling of being pointed at the center of his brow by a sword, and his hair stood on end. He was very clear that, in terms of true strength, he was not much stronger than his companions. The only thing that made him stronger was probably that he had comprehended the boxing intent, and with the amplification of the boxing intent, his attack power could be increased by at least ownfold. But even so, Wu Yao was not fully confident that he would definitely be Yu Changxiu's opponent. Is this person really a genius from these 5 countries? How could they be so terrifying? Wu Yao's heart trembled, and his palms were sweating. At this moment, Yu Changxiu's ethereal and fairy-like posture and figure became incomparably tall in his heart. Before he could figure out the other party's bottom line, he didn't even dare to accept the challenge. But the previous boast had already been made. If he left in a dispirited manner now, it would definitely become a laughing stock, and he would lose the face of the De Wei dynasty. At that time, not only would he be embarrassed and disgraced, but he would even lose the face of Tianmen Mansion and be punished by the elders in the mansion. Therefore, even if he had no confidence, he had to bite the bullet and persevere, and he must not be timid and retreat. His gaze shifted, and Wu Yao's eyes fell on Qin Chen, who was opposite Yu Changxiu. Suddenly, his expression brightened. I don't have full confidence in facing this white-clothed woman, but I have much more confidence in facing this young man. This person is young and his cultivation is not weak, but his strength must be more than a notch lower than the white-clothed woman. Moreover, from what I heard just now, this person seems to be a genius from one of the 5 countries. As long as I defeat him, I won't tarnish the reputation of the De Wei dynasty. When I leave then, no one can say anything. Taking a deep breath, Wu Yao immediately said loudly, I admit that my previous words were biased. There are still 1 or 2 geniuses in these Northwest 5 nations who are not bad. This girl can be considered one of them. However, I wonder if this handsome man beside the girl is also as gifted as the girl. Can he take one of my moves? As soon as the words fell, whoosh, Wu Yao's figure was as fast as lightning, and he pounced directly at Qin Chen. On his right hand, a dazzling light shone, erupting with an astonishing aura, wanting to capture Qin Chen with one claw. This guy is too despicable, he actually attacked Qin Chen. That's right. He must know that he is not Yu Changxu's opponent and shifted his target to Qin Chen. Damn it. Qin Chen is clearly 2 years younger than Yu Changxu. It is said that he was the youngest one during the initial trials of the Five Nations. Wu Yao is really making a good calculation. The hall exploded, and the crowd was in an uproar, all feeling that Wu Yao was too despicable. Targeting me. Qin Chen was stunned, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Did they think he was easy to bully? He gently picked up a piece of phoenix liver with his chopsticks and put it into his mouth. Qin Chen turned a blind eye to Wu Yao's attack. At the same time, he opened his mouth and said, Wang Qiming, although you have comprehended the sword intent, you have taken the wrong path. Your sword intent is biased towards anger. Although anger can make your attacks stronger, you must remember that anger is an emotion, not an intent. Using anger as the sword intent will only make you walk narrower and narrower on the path of sword intent, and eventually go astray, even going crazy. Qin Chen talked eloquently, giving him pointers. Seeing this, all the warriors in the hall on the 3rd floor were dumbfounded, and everyone was about to go crazy. Big brother, someone is challenging you now, and launching a fierce attack. Not only are you not fighting back, but you are actually in the mood to eat something. It's fine if you eat something, but you even have the leisure to give others pointers. You say that your strength may not be higher than Wang Qiming, what's the point of giving pointers? Don't get captured and lose the face of the Five Nations. For a time, everyone was almost going crazy. Even Wu Yao himself, who was attacking, was dumbfounded. Is this guy really a genius from the Five Nations, or did the Five Nations send him here to be funny? What time is it? And he is still talking eloquently. Fine. I will just capture him and dampen the momentum of these Five Nations. Thinking of this, the aura on Wu Yao's body became even stronger. Boom. The light on his right hand burst out, like a great sun, rumbling down towards Qin Chen. Just when everyone couldn't help but turn their heads away, Qin Chen raised the chopsticks in his right hand and used the chopsticks as a knife, slashing fiercely at Wu Yao. Boom! A terrifying saber light illuminated the void. The bamboo chopsticks suddenly burst out with an astonishing saber intent. The saber intent was infinite, with the power of destruction and containing endless killing intent. At this moment, everyone's hair stood on end, as if a basin of cold water had been poured on him in the freezing weather, giving him a jolt. What? Wu Yao was shocked, his scalp was numb, and the contempt in his eyes completely disappeared. In shock and anger, the true energy in his body burst out, and the surging aura of the great sun collided with the thick saber light, layers upon layers bursting out, wanting to smash this saber intent. However, the saber light emitted from the chopsticks seemed simple, but it was actually terrifyingly amazing. The aura of destruction and killing was like a mountain, slamming heavily on his body, and with a puff, it shattered his fist light, and the powerful force instantly knocked him away. Bang! The tables and chairs behind him shattered, and Wu Yao was extremely embarrassed, almost falling to the ground. Hiss! Seeing this, the crowd sucked in a cold breath, their eyeballs almost bursting. What did they see? Qin Chen used chopsticks to knock Wu Yao away. Could it be that they were seeing things? Many people rubbed their eyes, thinking it was an illusion. But the scene in front of them told them that all of this was real. Wang Qiming also looked at the scene in front of him in shock, and his heart was shaken. Young Master Chen is indeed young Master Chen, too strong. The saber just now contained at least 2 kinds of saber intent, and each saber intent was countless times stronger than his. Originally, his exploration of saber intent was like a blind man touching an elephant, but at this moment, seeing Qin Chen's saber, combined with what Qin Chen said before, it was as if a broad road was paved in front of him. Damn it! I don't believe that you can force me back with chopsticks. Roaring angrily, Wu Yao embarrassedly shook off the soup on his body, his eyes instantly turned red, like an angry lion, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. It wasn't that he hadn't considered the possibility that his opponent might also possess extraordinary cultivation and be able to withstand his attack, but he had never imagined that the other party would use a single chopstick to force him back, and in such a public setting, completely shattering his composure. Even in the Xuan prefecture of the Great Wei dynasty, he had never suffered such humiliation. Take my move, Extreme Tyrant Fist. The power of bloodline surged within him, and Wu Yao's body erupted with dazzling light. Simultaneously, layers of illusory images emerged above his right fist, resembling rounds of great suns, illuminating the past and present, shaking the world. This was the ultimate manifestation of the fist Dao intent. At this moment, he exerted all his strength, unleashing his cultivation to its peak, solely to defeat Qin Chen and reclaim his lost honor. Boom! Before the fist's force even arrived, the entire listening wind pavilion was already trembling, on the verge of collapse. Cut! Cut! Still a light and casual cut, Qin Chen unleashed it effortlessly. In his perception, the light filling his vision was not insurmountable. With a casual sweep of his mental energy, he identified at least 6 or 7 flaws. What seemed like a heaven-defying Xuan-level high-grade martial skill in the eyes of others was, in the eyes of this former martial emperor, so weak as to be utterly vulnerable. He pinpointed the weakest point, broke through the surface with a single point, and directly slashed past. Boom! Crack! The terrifying light of the great suns was struck by this ray of light, instantly trembling violently. The next moment, it directly shattered. From where the blade light struck, the layers upon layers of great sun radiance were destroyed like withered grass, instantly pulverized. Heavenly essence body protection. Wu Yao's expression drastically changed. He frantically unleashed his true essence, condensing a thick true energy shield within his body. The entire shield enveloped him, circulating brilliant rosy light, like a luminous figure, attempting to withstand the aftershock of Qin Chen's blade. But it was useless. With a cracking sound, cracks instantly appeared on the true energy shield in front of Wu Yao under the onslaught of the blade light. In an instant, it shattered into pieces. A powerful blade intent suddenly surged into his body, severing his meridians. PFFT. His body retreated clumsily. Wu Yao opened his mouth and spat out blood, kneeling heavily on one knee on the ground, his face pale, his aura weak, clearly suffering an unprecedented blow. Standing up, Wu Yao was about to say something when the blood in his body surged, and he couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Wu Yao. Brother Wu. The remaining members of the Great Wei dynasty couldn't help but exclaim, each of them staring in horror at Qin Chen, who was calm and collected in the distance. Having sent Wu Yao flying with a chopstick, Qin Chen acted as if nothing had happened, patted the chair next to him, and smiled at Wang Qiming, saying, "Come, sit down. Waiter, bring another set of bowls and chopsticks." It was as if repelling Wu Yao was an insignificant matter in his eyes. Everyone was shocked. Too strong. The Northwest Five Nations actually had such a terrifying genius. Was this still the Northwest Five Nations in their eyes? One person sent them flying with a sword, and another casually sent the powerful Wu Yao flying with chopsticks. Such strength was quite astonishing even in Xuan Prefecture and not to be trifled with. If a few more geniuses like this appeared, perhaps only the few peerless prodigies from Xuan Prefecture who came this time could easily crush them. The other geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty could not be said to have a stable advantage over them. Let's go. The group no longer had the face to stay any longer. Supporting Wu Yao, they left the Listening Wind Pavilion in disgrace, without any of their initial arrogance and elegance. Ha. Good. So satisfying. Looking down on our Northwest Five Nations. Why don't you piss and take a look at your own virtue? Hee. It's so damn satisfying. As expected of the genius who killed Nian Wuji of the Ghost Immortal sect. Compared to him, Nian Wuji is just trash. This Qin Chen is the pride of our Northwest Five Nations. Brother, wasn't it you who said earlier that Nian Wuji must have been secretly harmed by this Qin Chen? Cough. Did I say that? You must have misheard. The martial artists in the third floor hall discussed animatedly, each of them in an uproar, excitedly looking at Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu. In recent days, they had witnessed the arrogance of many geniuses from the Great Wei dynasty. Their superior and dismissive attitude had long made them dissatisfied, but no one could suppress them. Today, someone finally vented their anger, which could be described as a moment of triumph. On the other hand, there wasn't much fluctuation on the faces of Yu Changxiu and Qin Chen. They had both seen geniuses like Li Kunyun and Hua Fu of the Flowing Immortal sect. Compared to them, the arrogant Wu Yao and his group were just a few insignificant figures in the Great Wei dynasty and could not be considered truly top geniuses. Young Master Chen, you finally arrived. After you left the royal capital alone, Master Xiao Zhan and the others have been worried that you wouldn't make it in time. Wang Qiming said excitedly, draining the water in his teacup. Master Xiao Zhan and the others have all arrived. Qin Chen looked over with a smile. Yes. This time's competition is still led by Master Xiao Zhan. The disciples of our great Qi kingdom are now staying at the Thunder Moon Inn in Gufeng City. Okay, take me there later. Since he had come to Gufeng City, he naturally had to join the main force. By the way, young Master Chen, how did you end up with Yu Changxiu? You two weren't training together outside, were you? Wang Qiming couldn't help but ask curiously, glancing at Yu Changxiu, his eyes full of gossip. Don't get me wrong, I just encountered him by chance. Yu Changxiu's face changed, and she explained before Qin Chen could. Oh, I understand. Coincidence. Just a coincidence. Wang Qiming had an enlightened look on his face, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Young Master Chen is indeed young Master Chen. In the Great Qi Kingdom, Princess Xixun and Princess Lingshan have a close relationship with him. To think that after participating in the Five Nations tournament once, even the genius Yu Changxiu of the Lingtian sect is training with him. TSK, his skill in picking up girls is probably no less impressive than his talent in martial arts. Looking at Wang Qiming's knowing expression, Yu Changxiu was so depressed that she almost vomited blood. She glared at Qin Chen fiercely. If it weren't for this guy, how could she be misunderstood? The whispers of the surrounding martial artists came to her ears again, and almost all of them were talking about the matters between her and Qin Chen. She felt even more depressed. This time, she had jumped into the martial river and couldn't wash herself clean. Feeling Yu Changxiu's murderous gaze, Qin Chen was also very speechless. Beauty, this doesn't seem to be my fault, does it? Alright. Why are you so gossipy too? Qin Chen was depressed. This Wang Qiming was focused on martial arts, and he hadn't seen him like this before. He couldn't help but change the subject. Did you see the blade intent I just used clearly? Thank you for your guidance, young Master Chen. Qiming is extremely grateful. If it weren't for young Master Chen, Qiming wouldn't have comprehended blade intent so quickly, let alone made this breakthrough. Speaking of cultivation, Wang Qiming's expression became serious, and he said sincerely. What? Wang Qiming comprehended blade intent, and it was Qin Chen who guided him. Yu Changxiu was drinking water in depression. Hearing this, she choked and coughed violently, staring at Qin Chen in horror. 2 years ago, she comprehended sword intent and considered herself incredibly talented, but it was only her own comprehension. Asking her to guide others was absolutely impossible. After all, both saber intent and sword intent are a kind of artistic conception, a perception of saber techniques and sword techniques. They are not tangible objects, but rather very ethereal and illusory. Moreover, everyone's perception of saber techniques and sword techniques is completely different, so the sword intent and saber intent they comprehend will naturally vary greatly. One person's steps cannot be directly placed on another person, so relying on guidance is almost impossible to achieve. Unless the person giving guidance has reached a state of perfection and pinnacle in the perception of saber intent or sword intent. Reaching this level, it cannot be said that guidance is completely impossible, but it would only be slightly pointing out the way based on the disciple's talent. But now, Wang Qiming actually said that his saber intent was guided by Qin Chen, which made Yu Changxiu deeply shocked and felt unbelievable. Unaware of Yu Changxiu's shock, Qin Chen nodded. Yes, it's good that you understand. You are hardworking enough and talented enough, but because of your identity, there is a surge of anger within you, an anger towards the injustice of the world, an anger that wants to sever all things in the world and break through the shackles. This anger drives you forward, allowing your will to be firm, to endure more pain on the road to growth, and your will becomes stronger. But you must also remember that anger is just an emotion. It can drive you forward, but it cannot become your most core source of power. The essence of saber intent is artistic conception, such as the slaughter saber intent or destruction saber intent I just demonstrated. Slaughter and destruction are both artistic conceptions. You should comprehend your anger, transform this anger, this unyielding spirit, this unwillingness towards the rules of heaven, into a new artistic conception, and integrate it into your saber techniques, making it your unique saber intent. Instead of imitating others blindly and picking up what others have discarded. Only by achieving this can you be considered a true saber user, and only then can you be considered to have truly entered the hall of saber intent. Qin Chen taught earnestly and spoke eloquently. Beside him, Wang Qiming nodded repeatedly, his eyes becoming brighter. Although he had some understanding on his own, it was far from Qin Chen's personal guidance. Now, Qin Chen's words were like a sharp blade, pointing directly to the essence of saber intent, which greatly moved him. If I were to say, Qin Chen, who had just revealed two major saber intents, had opened a door for him. Then the current Qin Chen, behind the door, paved a road for him, a bright road leading to a prosperous future. Of course, the road paved by Qin Chen only prevents him from going astray, and gives him a very clear direction on the road forward. As for how far he can really go, it depends on himself and how much he can comprehend. The essence of saber intent is to comprehend and feel, transform artistic conception, integrate it into saber techniques, and evolve it into one's own understanding of saber techniques, becoming a new power. Then, what about sword intent? While Qin Chen was teaching Wang Qiming, Yu Changxiu, who was beside him, fell into deep shock and muttered to herself. Saber intent and sword intent seem different, but in reality, they are interconnected. Qin Chen's words can bring enlightenment to Wang Qiming, and also greatly touch Yu Changxiu's heart. At this moment, she couldn't help but recall the sword intent that Qin Chen casually displayed in the Demon Ancestor mountain range, which shattered her sword moves. That kind of ease and freedom reappeared in her mind, making her tremble uncontrollably. What kind of person is he? Why does he have such a deep attainments in sword intent, and is also so strong in saber intent? Moreover, he seems to be extremely extraordinary in formations. How did he do it? As she came into contact with Qin Chen, the Qin Chen who was originally quite disgusted in her heart became more and more blurred. It was as if a layer of mist had been shrouded over him, making her unable to help but want to explore the mysteries within. Becoming fascinated by it. At this time, outside Gufeng City, Li Kunyun and the red-clothed woman and other disciples of the Lixian sect were standing respectfully on a plain dozens of miles outside the city, led by the elder leading the team, seemingly waiting for something. Whoosh! Suddenly, a violent whistling sound came from the sky, and everyone hurriedly looked up, only to see a streak of fire sweeping from the distant horizon, initially only the size of a soybean, but in the blink of an eye it became incomparably clear. It turned out to be a terrifying blood beast with flames burning all over its body and the head of a lion and the body of an eagle. It is the legendary 4th Order Xuan level blood beast, the Flame Griffin. And on the back of the Flame Griffin, there stood proudly a young man with an extraordinary aura. This man was wearing a crimson-purple robe, with long hair flowing freely, his hair tied in a bun, and his appearance was handsome. As soon as he appeared, he seemed to have become the only one in the world, even the Flame Griffin in front of him became humble and insignificant. The young man rode the Flame Griffin and landed in front of the crowd of the Lixian sect. Immediately, a suffocating aura came with it, causing Li Kunyun and the others to involuntarily lower their heads, not daring to look directly at the person's face. Greetings, senior brother. Immediately afterwards, Li Kunyun and others bowed and saluted, with piety on their faces, full of respect. It was as if the person in front of them was not a senior brother, but an elder or sect master of the sect. Ha ha, Hua Tiandu, you finally arrived. The leading elder of the Lixian sect had a kind attitude towards the young man and smiled as he stepped forward. Greetings, Elder Hao. The young man cupped his hands, his posture casual. Ha ha, nephew is too polite. Elder Hao, is this Gunan capital ruin really as magical as you said in your message? The young man's eyes narrowed as he looked over. When I received the message, this disciple was in the sect's yin-yang immortal pool, practicing hard in seclusion. The sect is far away from these 5 countries, and a round trip takes a lot of time. If it's just an ordinary small ruin, wasting this time would be a bit of a waste. Ha ha, nephew, don't be impatient. At first, this old man was also a little doubtful, but after coming to these 5 countries to inquire, I discovered that this Gunan capital ruin is even more terrifying than this old man initially imagined. Oh. The young man looked over, revealing suspicion. The leading elder smiled faintly and said, according to this old man's observation, this ruin should come from before the Dark Ages. As expected, it was left behind by a powerful ancient sect. The most crucial thing is that this ruin is well preserved and even has its own autonomous consciousness. It opens once every 5 years, making it extraordinary. Oh, an ancient ruin from before the Dark Ages, that's a bit interesting. The young man nodded. This time, we can be considered to have taken advantage of being relatively close, but even so, in addition to our Lixian sect, many geniuses from the great dynasties have come to this land of the 5 countries. Are there any figures worth paying attention to? Yes. The leading elder nodded. In addition to our Lixian sect, young master Leng Shu, Leng Wushuang, and young master Dai Xin, Dai Tianyi, have also come to this Gufeng city, also for this Gunan capital ruin. Leng Wushuang and Dai Tianyi are here too. The youth's eyes narrowed, and a cold light bloomed from his body. Li Kunyun and the others were also shocked. Cold Sword Gentleman Leng Wushuang and Dai Xin young master Dai Tianyi were the most famous geniuses of Xuanzhou in the Dawei dynasty, on par with their senior brother Hua Tiandu of the Lixian sect, and were known as the few peerless talents of Xuanzhou, with illustrious reputations. With these 2 here, the probability of them winning a good ranking would probably be reduced again. HMPH. I didn't expect that these 2 fellows, Leng Wushuang and Dai Tianyi, would actually come here. It seems that this ancient southern capital ruins is really not simple. Hua Tiandu smiled coldly, obviously intrigued. Let's go. With a soft shout, the group of geniuses from the Lixian sect immediately flew towards Gufeng City, disappearing into the vast wilderness. In the distance, a stream of light quickly swept past. It was a middle-aged man wearing armor, with a cultivation base at the late peak of the Xuan level. After seeing Hua Tiandu and the others, he immediately gasped. Hiss! It's actually Hua Tiandu, the heir of the Lixian sect. He actually came too. His pupils contracted, and the middle-aged man's eyes were horrified. I didn't expect that so many geniuses from my Xuanzhou would gather in this northwest region. I heard that Cold Sword Gentleman Leng Wushuang and Dai Xin young master Dai Tianyi have also arrived. In this case, the 3 peerless geniuses of my Xuanzhou are going to have an unprecedented competition in these 5 countries. His heart stirred with excitement. This was big news. It's a pity that it is said that only geniuses under the age of 24 can enter the ancient southern capital and participate in the competition. Otherwise, I would really like to participate. With a sway of his figure, the middle-aged man disappeared. Lei Yue Inn was a very famous inn in Gufeng City, and it also operated a restaurant business. Therefore, various news were transmitted here every day. After Qin Chen bid farewell to Yu Changxiu, he came to Lei Yue Inn under the leadership of Wang Qiming. Seeing Qin Chen, Xiao Zhan and the others were naturally excited, especially after discovering that Qin Chen's cultivation had actually broken through to the late heaven level. They were even more dumbfounded. How exactly does this guy cultivate? Princess Xixun, the 4th Prince Zhao Wei, and the others were all stunned. Although they had also broken through to the late heaven level after this period of intensive cultivation, Qin Chen was, after all, so much younger than them, and had actually reached the same height as them. Not only Qin Chen, but Zhao Lingshan and Wang Qiming had also broken through to the late heaven level. They could only sigh that this generation of newcomers was simply terrifyingly strong. That night, Xiao Zhan held a welcome banquet at Lei Yue Inn to welcome Qin Chen's arrival. Qin Chen also had a clear understanding of the strength of the Darky Kingdom's contestants in this competition. The strongest genius of the Darky Kingdom was named Xiao Jing, Xiao Zhan's adopted son, 24 years old, and his cultivation base had just stepped into the half-step Xuan level, still some distance away from the Xuan level. First time meeting, I have long admired your name. Xiao Jing was gentle and had a faint smile on his lips. He had not been in the Darky Kingdom in recent days, but had been training outside. It was not until a few days ago that he had just returned to the royal capital and heard about Qin Chen's deeds. At the same time, he was also the contestant who had won the most outstanding spot in the previous Five Nations tournament for the Darky Kingdom. In addition to Xiao Jing, there were also some geniuses in the Darky Kingdom who were barely 24 years old, but their cultivation bases were all at the peak of the late heaven level, and none of them had stepped into the Xuan level. On the contrary, Qin Chen and his group had become the main force of this year's Five Nations tournament. Lord Xiao Zhan, does our Darky Kingdom not even have a Xuan-level genius? I heard that Yu Wenfeng of the Dalian Kingdom stepped into the Xuan level 2 years ago. Qin Chen was stunned and couldn't help but wonder. This, Qin Chen, you don't know something. Xiao Zhan smiled wryly. We Darky Kingdom is indeed very short of Xuan-level geniuses. The previous strategy did not consider it too far ahead. In addition, due to various reasons, there is a slight gap between us and other forces in terms of Xuan-level geniuses. Therefore, this time, His Majesty decided to let these 4 newly graduated students from Tianxing Academy enter the Blood Spirit Pool. The purpose is to allow the Darky Kingdom to have decent results in the next competition. Now it seems that the effect is indeed good. I see. Qin Chen suddenly understood. No wonder 4 of the 8 places in this Blood Spirit Pool were given to them. Adoptive father, don't worry, I will definitely win glory for our Darky Kingdom. Hearing this, Xiao Jing's eyes were firm, and he exuded a kind of perseverance and confidence. Xiao Zhan smiled wryly. Jing it's not that I'm trying to discourage you. Originally, in my opinion, even if our Darky Kingdom doesn't have top experts, it is still quite hopeful to get a few of the top 10 spots like in previous years. But I really didn't expect that the news of the ancient southern capital would be spread to the Dewei dynasty outside the 5 countries, attracting many geniuses from the Dewei dynasty. This time, I only hope that you can show your talents. As for the ranking, don't be too entangled. Xiao Zhan said freely. Everyone looked over. Was Lord Xiao Zhan boosting the morale of others too much? They hadn't even competed yet, and he didn't dare to think about the ranking. Seeing the stubborn and proud gazes of the crowd, Xiao Zhan shook his head and said nothing more. He knew very well that only after they truly understood the strength of the Dewei dynasty would they know that what he said was not alarmist. In the following days, Qin Chen and the others lived in Lei Yue Inn, cultivating while waiting for the opening of the ancient southern capital. Finally, at a certain moment, buzz. The sky hundreds of miles outside Gufeng City suddenly darkened, and an invisible terrifying aura enveloped the area within 1,000 miles. Looking up, they saw a city slowly emerging above the endless sky. This city was dark and deep, with an overwhelming pressure, towering high above the sky, making people involuntarily look up. Is this the ancient southern capital? The ancient southern capital has finally appeared. Go! Many warriors in Gufeng City rushed out at the moment the mysterious city appeared, their faces showing surprise, and they violently swept towards the ancient city suspended in the sky. Thousands of warriors, like torrents, converged forward. What a mysterious aura! This ancient southern capital is really extraordinary. In the crowd, Qin Chen stared at the magnificent city in the distant sky, and his heart was secretly shocked. The so-called ancient ruins are all those top experts of the ancient times who used monstrous means to preserve their treasures, or even important inheritances. But this kind of ruins is often hidden in some mysterious secret realms. Like this kind of city built directly in the sky, Qin Chen had never heard of it even in his previous life. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Numerous figures flew swiftly, heading towards the open space below the ancient city, each afraid of being late and missing a spot. Follow me closely, and don't get separated. Xiao Zhan's expression was solemn as he warned Qin Chen and the others. This Five Nations tournament was unusual, with experts from beyond the borders arriving, so they had to be extremely careful, or something could easily happen. At this moment, as the ancient southern capital appeared, on a plain hundreds of miles away from ancient Wind City, a black stream of light flying at top speed suddenly stopped, staring at the ancient southern capital ahead. This was a man wearing a black cloak, his eyes were cold, and his eyes were long and narrow. This is the ancient southern capital that the Five Nations spoke of. Magnificent indeed. HMPH. That kid is at such a cultivation level, he must be a genius of these Five Nations. I don't believe he won't participate in the biggest event in the Five Nations in 5 years. A cold voice came from the mouth of the cloaked man, and then with a flash of his figure, the cloaked man had disappeared on the plain. On the other side, outside ancient Wind City, the mighty crowd surged forward, and before long, everyone had arrived at the open space below the ancient city. This open space had long been cleaned, and even around it, there was a high platform, which was built jointly by the major forces decades ago. The experts of the 5 powerful nations and major forces were already experienced and occupied the most favorable positions. Among them, Wei Tianming of the Great Liang Nation led the geniuses of the Great Liang Nation, occupying a certain position, followed by the Great Wei Nation, the Great Zhao Nation, the Great Song Nation, the Lingqian sect and other powerful sects, all closely following and occupying other positions. "Let's go over here," Xiao Zhan shouted in a low voice, and with a whoosh, he swept onto a high platform. This high platform was located directly in front of the suspended ancient city, with an excellent view. Looking out, ancient Wind City in the distance was also extremely clear, and a large number of warriors could be seen rushing from that direction. This area has always been occupied by our great Qi nation. You guys rest here first. Although the ancient southern capital has already appeared, there is still some time before it truly descends, so adjust your condition first. Xiao Zhan warned. At this time, after the 6 major forces occupied their respective positions, there were still some empty seats on the high platform, which were not occupied, attracting the attention of the other major forces of the 5 nations, who revealed fine light in their eyes. These high platforms did not have much effect on competing for rankings in the ancient southern capital, but they could get the closest contact with the aura of the ancient southern capital, wash the body and mind, improve martial arts comprehension, and at the same time, they were also a symbol of status and position. Basically, the forces that could stand on the high platform represented the top combat power of the 5 nations. And according to past experience, the number of forces that could stand on it would not exceed 10. This year, no one from the Ghost Immortal sect has come, which means there is one more spot. Go. Let's. The Blackstone Nation, take 1. People from the Saber King Gate, follow me. Our Chi Xiao Nation also stood on the high platform in the previous session, and naturally we can't fall behind in this session. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The remaining forces who were more confident in their strength shouted loudly and jumped up. We, the Ghost Immortal sect, haven't taken the stage yet, and you dare to move. Rumble. Just as they were about to sweep onto the high platform, suddenly, a cold and ferocious laughter sounded, followed by whoosh 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 whoosh. A series of terrifying figures in black robes suddenly swept from a distance. These figures were as fast as lightning, instantly surpassing the other major forces, and landed on the high platform in one fell swoop, occupying a favorable position. This is Ghost Immortal sect. Wasn't it rumored that the Ghost Immortal sect was destroyed by the Great Qi nation? Where did so many experts come from? The crowd was startled and looked up, and saw a group of strong men in black cloaks on the high platform. Their faces were covered by hats, and their specific appearance could not be seen, but the aura they exuded was extremely cold, which was frightening. Around these people, there was a group of young disciples, all wearing the sect robes of the Ghost Immortal sect, and their aura was extraordinary, making people dare not underestimate them. In addition, among the disciples, there was a middle-aged man who did not cover his face. As soon as he came up, he glared at the Great Qi nation and the Great Wei nation, and a hint of hatred flashed in his eyes. It's Elder Hu Zongnan of the Ghost Immortal sect. Could it be that this group of people are really experts from the Ghost Immortal sect? However, it is said that Sect Master Nian Shuo of the Ghost Immortal sect and others have all been killed, and even many disciples, deacons and elders who sneaked into the capital of the Great Qi nation were all wiped out by Qin Chen, the god of the Great Qi nation's army. Even if there are still some people left in the entire Ghost Immortal sect, they are just shrimps and crabs, old and weak. How could so many experts suddenly emerge? Yes, it is said that Sect Master Nian Shuo of the Ghost Immortal sect led many experts of the Ghost Immortal sect to sneak into the capital of the Great Qi nation, trying to kill Qin Feng and Qin Chen, but was killed by the Great Qi nation instead. At the same time, Nian Shuo also wanted to unite with the Great Wei nation to attack the Great Qi nation from the border, but was discovered early by Qin Chen, the god of the Great Qi nation's army. After Nian Shuo and others died, the experts of the Great Qi nation suddenly took action and surrounded and suppressed many elders and disciples of the Ghost Immortal sect. There were very few people who escaped alive. Where did so many geniuses and experts come from? The crowd was in an uproar and extremely puzzled. Although the group of black-clothed people on the stage were silent, just standing there, a palpitating aura permeated, and this kind of momentum was definitely not as simple as ordinary profound-level warriors. And the disciples of the Ghost Immortal sect led by Huzongnan also had extraordinary momentum. The weakest of them seemed to be at the late stage of the heaven level, which was shocking and incomprehensible. Huzongnan, what exactly is going on? Wei Tianming of the Great Liang Nation, as the host of the Northwest Five Nations, immediately took a step forward to inquire. Attracting the attention of countless people, staring at the Ghost Immortal sect. They also wanted to know where this group of people came from. Huzongnan glanced at Wei Tianming and said lightly, Wei Tianming, these few are all supreme elders of my Ghost Immortal sect. They have been living in seclusion in my Ghost Immortal sect's resident all year round. Not long ago, the sect master of my Ghost Immortal sect was tragically murdered by the Great Qi nation. After the supreme elders learned about it, they broke through the barrier and came out. Is there any problem? Your Ghost Immortal sect's supreme elders. This old man has never heard of it before. Why not take off your hats and take a look? And also, where did the group of disciples beside you come from? This old man remembers that there doesn't seem to be this group of people among the genius disciples of your Ghost Immortal sect. Wei Tianming, are you suspecting my Ghost Immortal sect? Huzongnan smiled coldly, took out a token in his hand, and said, this is the sect master's order of my Ghost Immortal sect. The supreme elders know that my Ghost Immortal sect is in great trouble, and have allowed me to succeed to the position of sect master of the Ghost Immortal sect. As for the others, it is a matter of my Ghost Immortal sect's sect. The Great Liang nation doesn't seem to be able to control it, right? As for these disciples, they were selected by my Ghost Immortal sect when they were young and accepted the secret training of the supreme elders. Now that the other geniuses of my Ghost Immortal sect have been framed and killed by the Great Qi nation and the Great Wei nation, it is reasonable for them to come forward to replace them. Wei Tianming frowned, and wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't speak. Even if he suspected that the group of black-clothed people had unknown origins, Huzongnan was, after all, an elder of the Ghost Immortal sect, and had the sect master's order, inheriting the position of sect master of the Ghost Immortal sect. As he said, he, Wei Tianming, could not control his Ghost Immortal sect's own affairs, nor did he have the qualifications to control them. Brother Hu, you said that my Great Wei nation framed your Ghost Immortal sect's geniuses. Is there some misunderstanding in this? Wei Qi-cheng, the #1 expert of the Great Wei nation, couldn't help but speak. Yu Qi-cheng, stop with the fake sympathy. Glaring coldly at Yu Qi-cheng, Huzongnan's eyes exploded with intense resentment and killing intent, an intent even stronger than what he felt for the Great Qi people. Back then, my Ghost Immortal sect allied with your Great Wei kingdom to ambush and pressure the Great Qi kingdom's borders. As a result, my Ghost Immortal sect's elders and geniuses were exposed and besieged by Great Qi kingdom experts. Not only did your Great Wei kingdom not provide assistance, but upon learning of our sect leader's death, you imprisoned our Ghost Immortal sect's surviving elders and geniuses, intending to annex our Ghost Immortal sect. HMPH. Our Ghost Immortal sect was truly blind to have trusted you, the Great Wei kingdom, a white-eyed wolf. Rest assured, the Ghost Immortal sect will definitely avenge this debt. Gritting his teeth, Huzongnan's words were like pearls, each one filled with killing intent. Hiss. The crowd gasped, erupting into an uproar. They had only heard that Nian Shuo and the others went to the Great Qi Kingdom's capital and were ambushed and killed, but they didn't know that there was such a conflict between the Ghost Immortal sect and the Great Wei Kingdom. They couldn't help but look at the Great Wei Kingdom, their eyes filled with contempt. Everyone knew that among the 5 kingdoms, the Great Wei Kingdom was the true mortal enemy of the Great Qi Kingdom. The Great Wei Kingdom used the Ghost Immortal sect to deal with Great Qi, and after the sect was exposed, they not only didn't provide assistance but also took advantage of their misfortune, intending to annex the Ghost Immortal sect. Such behavior was outrageous and despicable. Amidst the noisy crowd, some other forces seized the opportunity to rush onto the high platform. After some fighting, 3 more forces stood on the high platform, occupying a position. These major forces revealed excited expressions after occupying the high platform. However, Xiao Zhan and the others didn't feel any joy about this, but rather had solemn expressions. Because so far, the Great Wei dynasty's major forces hadn't arrived yet. Ha ha ha. Sure enough, as soon as the warrior rose, a burst of laughter echoed in the world. Is it lively here? In the distant sky, a group of imposing experts suddenly appeared, rushing towards the high platform. This group of people had extraordinary momentum. Before they even arrived, a suffocating aura swept over, causing many experts from the 5 kingdoms to retreat, not daring to look directly at them, making way for a passage. Are these the geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty? What a terrifying aura. Look at the leading expert, his true essence is taking shape. Could he be a martial sect expert, as rumored? The crowd erupted in an uproar. The news of the Great Wei dynasty's experts and geniuses coming had already spread in Gufeng City, but most people had only seen some ordinary Great Wei dynasty geniuses. They had never seen a true Great Wei dynasty expert. Now, upon meeting one, an oppressive pressure immediately enveloped them. This high platform is the place to welcome the ancient southern capital, right? Not bad. An old man, followed by a group of geniuses, glanced at the high platform in front of him and smiled slightly. Let's go, we'll go up. Whoosh. This group of people rushed straight to the high platform, ignoring the experts from the 5 kingdoms already standing on it. The place they were rushing towards was the position occupied by the Blackstone Kingdom. Seeing this, the Blackstone Kingdom experts' expressions changed, and they couldn't help but lead the disciples to resist. You still want to attack in front of this old man? How laughable. The old man's eyes were indifferent, not taking the Blackstone Kingdom experts seriously at all. With a casual wave of his hand, an invisible terrifying force swept out, instantly sending the Blackstone Kingdom's group of experts flying, falling from the high platform in a sorry state. With one strike, all the Blackstone Kingdom disciples were swept away, and the old man led his subordinates to land on the high platform originally occupied by the Blackstone Kingdom. Hiss! A series of gasps rang out. At this moment, all the experts from the 5 kingdoms were horrified, their faces showing shock and anger. The Blackstone Kingdom was able to occupy a position not by luck, but through competition. However, in front of this group of people, the strongest of the Blackstone Kingdom was almost as fragile as paper, not even able to withstand a single blow. This deeply shocked every martial artist from the 5 kingdoms. Ha ha ha. Let's go. Let's also occupy a position. This high platform is obviously the best location. How are the ants from the 5 kingdoms qualified to stand on it? Hee hee. Get down here. With the old man setting an example, the many experts and geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty all roared and rushed towards the high platform. PFFT. Rumble. The sounds of fighting instantly rang out. The forces from the 5 kingdoms who had barely managed to stand on it were instantly blasted down, and angry voices, roars, and shouts rose and fell. Ha ha. This position is not bad, we'll take it. One of the forces set its target on the Great Zhao Kingdom's position and rushed over. Damn it, this is our 5 kingdoms' territory. Isn't Your Excellency being too disrespectful to us? The number 1 expert of the Great Zhao Kingdom was a middle-aged man holding a spear. Seeing this, he was shocked and furious. Respect. That force sneered, its gaze high above, as if a divine dragon overlooking ants, and coldly said, so-called respect is given to those of equal strength. In our eyes, you 5 kingdoms are nothing more than barbarians and ants. What respect is there to speak of? Do you really think there's no one in our 5 kingdoms? The Great Zhao Kingdom's number 1 expert's expression was furious, and the spear in his hand suddenly stirred, evolving into a dark spear shadow. The spear shadow was hazy, and finally formed a black dragon, roaring and rushing towards the old man. Black dragon breaks the sky. Rumble. The black spear shadow, carrying endless pressure, rushed out. Ha ha ha. Is this the strength of your 5 kingdoms experts? Too weak. The old man sneered, his big hand raised, like a high sky, covering the sky and the sun, casually crushing down. With a rumble, the black dragon formed by the spear shadow shattered in the next moment, and the great Zhao Kingdom's #1 expert spat blood and flew backwards, falling from the high platform in a sorry state. The old man came to the high platform, his body shook, and a wild and domineering force swept out, blasting all the great Zhao Kingdom's geniuses away. Afterwards, the geniuses of the old man's force fell down, occupying a position, the corners of their mouths outlining a cold smile, looking at the crowd of the 5 kingdoms below with eyes full of ridicule. Hiss. The audience was silent, a dead silence. Only the sound of gasping for air rose and fell. The #1 expert of the great Zhao Kingdom, one of the 5 great powers, was actually not a match for this old man's one move. At this moment, a deep sense of powerlessness rose in the hearts of all the people of the 5 kingdoms. Strong. Too strong. Compared with the experts of the Great Wei dynasty, the experts of the 5 kingdoms were fragile and vulnerable. Without a doubt, this old man was definitely a 5th-level martial sect expert. In the 5 kingdoms, apart from Daliang kingdom's Wei Tianming being a half-step martial sect, there wasn't even a single martial sect expert. How could they resist? Suppressing his anger, Wei Tianming said coldly, "Your Excellency, this ancient southern capital is originally the relic of our 5 kingdoms. Your Great Wei dynasty wants to get a share of the pie, and our 5 kingdoms have agreed. But Your Excellency's actions are a bit excessive, right?" Excessive. The old man sneered and glanced at Wei Tianming. "If I were really excessive, I wouldn't just drive your 5 kingdoms' disciples down. Although this ancient southern capital relic appeared in your 5 kingdoms, the so-called treasure is for the virtuous to possess. This old man is doing this to comply with the heavens. If your 5 kingdoms are not convinced, you can attack and drive this old man off the high platform. This old man will not say anything else, how about it?" Ha ha ha. Why waste words with old man Lu and them? In these 5 nations, the martial artists are utterly vulnerable. Looking around, there isn't even a single martial sect. Are they worthy to negotiate with us? If not for the continent's agreement, we would have cleared this place long ago, driving all the disciples of these 5 nations out. Giving them a chance to compete now is already merciful. That's right. These wastes from the 5 nations, in my opinion, are not qualified to stay here. We let them stay, and instead of being grateful, they're still whining. Truly detestable. Experts, strong individuals. In my eyes, they're just a group of slightly larger ants. Are they worthy to negotiate with us? It's laughable. Many geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty mocked and sneered, their words filled with disdain, completely disregarding the people of the 5 nations. That kind of posture and expression filled the hearts of all the people of the 5 nations with anger, and they felt a deep sense of shame. Ancient southern capital was originally a relic of the 5 nations. These people from the Great Wei dynasty came aggressively. In order to avoid conflict, the 5 nations had already agreed to their request, allowing them to enter the ancient southern capital relic. Unexpectedly, in the eyes of the other party, the actions of the 5 nations were completely disdainful. Instead, they continued to allow the people of the 5 nations to have the qualification to enter the ancient southern capital, as if it had become their charity. This kind of reversal of black and white, confusing right and wrong, made people feel aggrieved and filled with anger. That's too much. This ancient southern capital was originally a relic of our 5 nations, but now it has become their charity. It's really hateful. The people of the 5 nations were all aggrieved, gritting their teeth, and the anger in their hearts burned fiercely, unable to be suppressed. Even Qin Chen felt it was excessive, his eyes icy cold. In Tianwu Continent, the strong are indeed respected, and the weak have no right to speak. But in many cases, some real strong individuals can at least maintain the demeanor and maintain superficial peace. But these people from the Great Wei dynasty simply didn't regard the 5 nations as anything. That kind of posture and expression made it impossible for any normal person from the 5 nations to endure. That contempt flowing from the depths of their bones deeply stung everyone's heart. What? Not convinced? If you are not convinced, you can come up. If you can defeat this old man will naturally give way. The old man, called Old Lu, smiled contemptuously, looking down at the crowd below, like an emperor looking down at his subjects. This brought about a burst of laughter from many experts of the Great Wei dynasty. In my opinion, it's better for all of you from the 5 nations to obediently roll down. This place is not a place you can come up to. Base people should stay below and look up to us. Staying here will only be embarrassing. Many experts of the Great Wei dynasty on the high platform said with a chuckle, as if it was a matter of course. Hateful. The people of the 5 nations below looked grief-stricken and indignant, their anger burning. However, no one stepped forward. Even Li Lanfeng, the #1 expert of the Great Zhao Kingdom, a Xuan-level late-stage peak expert, was not the old man's opponent in one move. If they stepped forward, they would only be humiliating themselves. Ha ha ha. Stop talking nonsense with them. Drive the other people from the 5 nations down as well. With a long roar, an expert from the Great Wei dynasty who had not yet ascended the high platform flew up. Amidst his arrogant laughter, he swept his palm across the high platform, his posture contemptuous. This time, the opponent this person found was the Ghost Immortal sect, intending to sweep away all the people of the Ghost Immortal sect with one palm. Huzongman's expression changed, and he suddenly looked at the leading black-clothed men. These black-clothed men remained unchanged, as if several black boulders, standing there, but that group of black-clothed disciples, the corners of their mouths outlined a sneer. Seeing that the expert's attack was about to fall, one of the black-clothed men suddenly moved. With a flip of his hand, a pitch-black handprint, like a mountain, crushed over, shattered the opponent's attack, and even sent the expert of the Great Wei dynasty flying out, like a cannonball. What? Everyone on the field instantly changed color, each with a look of horror. What was going on? The expert of the Great Wei dynasty was actually knocked away. Damn it! Impossible! The expert of the Great Wei dynasty who was knocked away roared angrily, his face showing disbelief. His face instantly turned blood red, his pupils angry, like flames burning, and his vigor swept across his body, and he once again violently swept up. Boom! His whole body burned with blood-colored light. In an instant, the whole person seemed to have turned into a flame god of war. The cultivation of the initial stage of the 5th order sect level was revealed in an instant. Before his figure arrived, the terrifying aura had already descended, like a mountain, severely suppressing everyone in the Ghost Immortal sect. Is this the strength of a 5th order martial sect? Too terrifying. What a terrible aura. The people of the 5 nations all changed color. Although the other party was not targeting them, the aura pressure that was unconsciously emitted was enough to make the true power in their bodies difficult to operate and their breathing difficult. You group of lowly people, if you had obediently gone down just now, this sect might not have done anything to you, but now, this sect wants you to kneel here and know what regret is. A ferocious roar sounded. The expert of the Great Wei dynasty, with a ferocious face and bulging forehead veins, pressed down with a palm. The black-clothed man of the Ghost Immortal sect still did not change his expression, raised his right hand, and gently patted it out. Boom! A thunderbolt exploded out of thin air in the sky, and the amazing palm power annihilated everything. Only to see that the flamestorm blasted out by the expert of the Great Wei dynasty instantly disintegrated, and the whole person came how, and flew out how, crashing into the ground below with a bang, smoke and dust flying. The black-clothed man shook the expert of the Great Wei dynasty with one palm, and then his expression did not change, and his figure retreated, returning to the team again. From beginning to end, he didn't say a word. Hiss. The sound of gasping for air rose and fell in the crowd. Everyone was dumbfounded, their expressions horrified, and they stared blankly at the scene in front of them. Where did the Ghost Immortal sect get so many experts? At this moment, everyone's hearts were shaken, unable to believe their eyes. To shake the expert of the Great Wei dynasty with one palm, such cultivation is at least in the 5th order martial sect realm. However, there are almost no martial sect experts in the entire Northwest 5 nations. Where did the Ghost Immortal sect find so many experts? It completely subverted everyone's cognition. Where the Great Qi Kingdom was located, Qin Chen's pupils also shrank suddenly, secretly saying, although the aura on this person's body is very gloomy, and has the same effect as the Ghost Immortal sect's exercises, in essence, it is completely different. It is definitely not a person from the Ghost Immortal sect. Not only the people of the Five Nations, but the other experts of the Great Wei dynasty also looked horrified at this time, and looked intently. Their eyes were cold, staring coldly at the few people in the Ghost Immortal sect, their eyes sharp, like a sharp blade, to pierce into the hearts of a few people. Your Excellency. With a movement of his figure, one of the experts of the Great Wei dynasty smiled coldly, just about to speak, suddenly seemed to sense something, stopped his steps, and even turned his head to look into the distance. Only to see in the distant plain, 3 powerful auras rose, and 3 teams slowly appeared, walking slowly towards this place. Seeing this, all the experts of the Great Wei dynasty suddenly changed their eyes, and their expressions were all very solemn. At this moment, the experts from the once arrogant and domineering Great Wei dynasty were all silent as cicadas in winter, staring at the 3 forces in the distance with solemn, apprehensive, and even vaguely nervous expressions. The people of the 5 kingdoms couldn't help but look up, secretly harboring doubts and guesses in their hearts, who exactly could make the experts of the Great Wei dynasty so nervous, like mice seeing a cat. In sight, the speed at which these 3 forces advanced didn't seem fast, and they appeared to be moving side by side, restraining each other. But what was puzzling was that although they didn't seem to be moving fast, they had already arrived in front of the open space in the blink of an eye, as if ignoring the distance between them. Simultaneously, a palpitating aura permeated the air, and everyone present felt a terrifying power suppressing and spreading, making it difficult for them to breathe, and they couldn't help but make way. At this time, everyone had also clearly seen the faces of the 3 forces. To everyone's shock, the leaders of these 3 forces were all young men in their early 20s. The one leading on the left was a white-robed youth holding a jade fan, with a slender figure, a turban on his head, and a graceful demeanor, drifting over. Strangely, his face was like that of white jade, with a layer of jade-like light flowing on his skin, flashing with a soul-stirring radiance, and his eyes were even more refined and profound, giving people an unspeakable scholarly temperament. However, the aura on his body was extremely cold, and before he even got close, a chill was released into the heavens and earth, causing people to tremble involuntarily. Turning his head, the leader in the middle of the 3 forces was a handsome youth in black, with eagle-like eyes, empty and indifferent. What was peculiar was that his entire skin flowed with a metallic luster, and even his clothes and hair had been assimilated by metal, emitting a cold, metallic aura. Behind him, several experts followed, their postures extremely low, like servants. And the person on the right was a youth wearing a crimson-purple martial robe, with equally handsome features, but on him, there was an invisible domineering aura, as if he wanted to control everything in the heavens and earth. Behind this person, there were several young people of the same age, both male and female, and their strength was also extraordinary. In addition, there were 2 elders guarding him, their eyes cold, and the pressure of their will was no weaker than anyone present. It's young Master Leng Shu, young Master Dixing, and the sect master of the Lu Xian sect. I've long heard that these 3 geniuses have come to the land of the 5 kingdoms, but I didn't expect it to be true. Hiss. With them here, there's almost no chance for us to compete for the top 3. When these 3 forces arrived, all the warriors of the Great Wei dynasty who had arrived earlier were silent as cicadas in winter, not daring to speak, their eyes filled with deep apprehension. Even the tall figures and domineering aura they had previously displayed in front of the people of the 5 kingdoms had invisibly weakened, like a strong man deliberately hunching his back, not daring to be too conspicuous, for fear of attracting attention. Hee, it seems this young master hasn't arrived too late. That ancient southern capital doesn't seem to have completely descended yet. The black-clothed youth in the middle smiled lightly as soon as he arrived at the open space, his eyes sweeping across the high platform. There's even a high platform here, is it prepared for this young master? Not bad, not bad. The youth nodded, and with a leap, he flew towards the high platform. The place where he flew was neither biased nor inclined, precisely where Elder Lu, who had been extremely arrogant in front of the people of the 5 kingdoms, was located. Hiss. Elder Lu gasped when he saw this, and a strong look of fear appeared between his eyebrows. Quick! Young Master Dixing has taken a fancy to this place, quickly follow me down. Without the black-clothed youth saying anything, Elder Lu, with a look of horror, hurriedly led his subordinates down from the high platform, fearing that he would be too slow and provoke the other party's anger. At the same time, he said, I am Lu Zhen of Tianwu Valley. It is my honor that young Master Dixing has taken a fancy to my high platform. I hope young Master Dixing will accept it with a smile. He was trembling, as if the other party occupying his high platform was still giving him face, and he was flattering him. However, his words not only did not satisfy the black-clothed youth, but also made the other party frown slightly. Seeing this, an old man behind the black-clothed youth immediately came out, staring coldly at Elder Lu below with a blank expression, and said coldly, Lu Zhen, are you mistaken? How could my young master occupy your position? Yes, I misspoke. There was no one on that high platform before. It was young Master Dixing who occupied it himself, not anyone who gave it up. Hearing this, Elder Lu was almost scared to tears. He let his mouth be cheap, and even wanted to curry favor with young Master Dixing. Was young Master Dixing the kind of person he could curry favor with? It could be seen that he was so frightened that his face turned pale, his forehead was covered with cold sweat, his voice trembled, and his eyes were terrified, almost kneeling on the spot. The difference between this and his previous arrogance and domineering was too great. As for what happened before, I will let it go because of your unintentional mistake, but if you dare to talk nonsense again, don't blame my Dixing City for not being reasonable and wiping out your Tianwu Valley from the Great Wei Dynasty, turning it into a pile of ruins. The old man snorted coldly and said no more. Elder Lu was relieved and nodded repeatedly, yes, thank you, young Master Dixing, for your great kindness and virtue. I will definitely remember it in my heart. As he spoke, he bowed and retreated, his robe already soaked with cold sweat. Seeing this, the people of the 5 kingdoms felt extremely happy in their hearts. It was this Elder Lu who had just made wild remarks and despised the 5 kingdoms to the extreme. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, he was taught a lesson, which was really satisfying. But at the same time, they were also deeply shocked by young Master Dixing and worried. There was no doubt that these 3 forces who came last must be extremely terrifying forces, even in the Great Wei Dynasty. Otherwise, the many experts and geniuses of the Great Wei Dynasty would not have such a performance. Now that this group of people has come, will the geniuses of their 5 kingdoms still have hope? They couldn't help but feel deeply anxious. Little did they know that Elder Lu was also trembling in his heart, relieved, and felt that he had saved his life. His Tianwu Valley, looking at the entire Xuan province of the Great Wei Dynasty, was also a not weak force, but at most, it was in the middle reaches. But at this moment, the northwest 5 kingdoms gathered the 3 major forces where the 3 great geniuses of Xuan province were located. They were Tianheng Academy, Dixing City, and Liaxian Sect. Among them, Dixing City was an extremely terrifying city in Xuan province. Even in the Great Wei Dynasty, it had a great reputation, and in the entire Xuan province, it was second only to Xuancheng, the capital of Xuan province. Young Master Dixing, Dai Tianyi, was the son of the city lord of Dixing City. Such an identity was much stronger than his mere Tianwu Valley. It could be said that these 3 major forces were above the many other forces present. 10 Tianwu Valleys could not withstand a single blow from Dixing City. Therefore, Elder Lu did not dare to be arrogant in front of Dai Tianyi at all. If the other party wanted to kill him, it would be a matter of minutes. It could even be asserted that even if he was innocently killed by Dai Tianyi, after his Tianwu Valley received the news, not only would they not stand up for him, but they would be trembling and would go to Dixing City to plead guilty as a clan. Otherwise, they would not escape the disaster of the destruction of their clan. How dare he be arrogant in front of the other party? The arrival of the 3 great prodigies from the Dewei dynasty's Xuan province instantly made the atmosphere on the field incomparably strange. Whether it was the experts from the 5 nations or the various forces of the Dewei dynasty, all were silent, and no one dared to speak. In particular, the warning given to Tianwu Valley made everyone clearly understand the power of these 3 great prodigies. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. After the Daixin young master, Dai Tianyi, occupied one side of the high platform, the cold scholar, Leng Wushuang, and the Liaxian sect's son, who are Tiandu, also swept onto the high platform closest to them. Leng Wushuang chose the high platform occupied by a certain force of the Dewei dynasty, while Hua Tiandu of the Lixian sect chose the high platform where the Dasong kingdom was located. Let's go down. Having learned from Tianlu Valley's example, these two forces, despite being extremely unwilling, still took the initiative to descend from the high platform at the first opportunity. From then on, the Dewei dynasty and the major forces of the five nations had all gathered. After Leng Wushuang and Hua Tiandu swept onto the high platform, they didn't say a word, only staring at the increasingly clear ancient southern capital above their heads, their eyes flashing with light, never looking at anyone around them. It seemed that in their eyes, apart from the three great prodigies and the ancient southern capital above their heads, no one else was even qualified to be glanced at. On the contrary, Dai Tianyi, the Daixin young master, stood on the high platform, looking around. Hey, I heard that in your Northwest Five Nations, not long ago, there were two people named Yu Changsu and Qin Chen who injured people from my Dewei dynasty at Tingfeng Pavilion. Which two are they? Step forward and let this young master take a look. Dai Tianyi looked around and suddenly said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the entire place instantly fell silent. The matter of Qin Chen and Yu Changsu repelling Wu Yao and other Dewei dynasty geniuses at Tingfeng Pavilion had already spread throughout the entire Gufeng city through the dissemination of some busybodies. For the martial artists of the Northwest Five Nations, this was an extremely honorable matter, and they naturally spread it widely, but they never expected that it would attract the attention of this Daixin young master. Thinking of the previous appearance of Elder Lu of Tianlu Valley of the Dewei dynasty, it was still vivid in their minds. If Qin Chen and Yu Changsu were targeted by such a guy, could they still have a good outcome? Immediately, they couldn't help but secretly sweat for the two of them and looked over one after another. Qin Chen. At this moment, in the crowd, a cloaked man had just squeezed into the crowd and was searching around for something. After hearing this name, his aura suddenly shook, and he immediately looked in the direction pointed out by Wu Yao and others. With this look, the cloaked man's gloomy eyes almost spat out fire. Good. This kid is really in this ancient southern capital. This seat has been looking for you for so long. His eyes were filled with anger, and a strong killing intent surged in his heart. He couldn't wait to pounce on him and skin Qin Chen alive. But, after seeing Dai Tianyi and the others on the high platform, he hesitated for a moment, but had to forcibly suppress the idea of capturing Qin Chen. Damn it! Why are the people from Tianheng Academy, Lixian sect, and Daixin City also here? With them here, once this old man makes a move, he will definitely expose himself. At that time, it will definitely attract a lot of trouble. Damn it, damn it. The cloaked man was extremely depressed. Forget it. Let's wait first. Anyway, this person is here and won't run away, so let him live a little longer for now. In the end, the cloaked man could only make a helpless decision. If it weren't for these three major forces, this old man would definitely skin and cramp this kid at the first opportunity to relieve the hatred in my heart. Even so, he was extremely unwilling and held a bellyful of resentment. At this time, the atmosphere on the field became more and more solemn. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Yu Changsu's eyes flickered, but she didn't speak. As for Qin Chen, he was even more expressionless, ignoring everything. For a time, the scene was incomparably silent, and no one dared to expose Qin Chen and Yu Changsu's location. Faced with this situation, the martial artists of the Northwest Five Nations were united against the enemy. Daixin young master, it's these two people. At this moment, a cold shout rang out, and it was Wu Yao and the others under the stage who stood up quickly. Seeing that the Daixin young master was standing up for them, they were all invigorated and hurriedly pointed out Qin Chen and Yu Changsu in the crowd, their eyes revealing hatred. You too, did you hear that? The Daixin young master is asking you questions. How dare you be disrespectful to the Daixin young master? What should be your punishment? Wu Yao shouted coldly, his expression impassioned, no longer the embarrassment of the past. HMPH, you two dare to ignore the Daixin young master's order, who do you think you are? Humble commoners, why don't you come out and listen to the Daixin young master's dispatch? Too presumptuous. Several people roared repeatedly, flaunting their power, high-spirited, and invincible. These days, The news of the defeat by Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu has been widely circulated in Gufeng City, making it impossible for them to raise their heads among the many geniuses of the Dewei dynasty. Naturally, their hearts are full of resentment towards the two. Now that they see an opportunity for revenge, how can they not be active? Oh, it's them. The Daixin young master looked at Yu Changxiu and Qin Chen. After seeing Yu Changxiu, his eyes lit up. TSK, what a beauty. At this time, Yu Changxiu stood proudly on the high platform where the Lingtian sect was located, wearing a white dress, fluttering like a fairy. That kind of posture was like a fairy from the 9 heavens wanting to ride the wind and return, making people extremely amazed. This kind of appearance, this kind of temperament, even in the Dewei dynasty, can be called a peerless beauty. Immediately, it attracted the exclamation of the Dewei dynasty, who would have thought that in this remote and backward 5 nations, there would be such a beautiful woman. Daixin young master, this woman is the daughter of the Lingtian sect master, the top sect in the northwest 5 nations. It is said that she comprehended the sword intent at the age of 16, and now she is only 18 years old and is already a genius at the late stage peak of the heaven realm. If the Daixin young master likes her, you can take her as a maid and let her serve by the young master's side, adding fragrance to the young master's sleeves, which is not a bad thing. Wu Yao hurriedly flattered. Hearing this, the Lingtian sect master's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly stepped forward. Daixin young master, my daughter is ignorant of the world and doesn't understand things. She has offended several geniuses of the Dewei dynasty. Please forgive me, Daixin young master. This old man is Yu Wajin, the Lingtian sect master. I am willing to apologize to the Dewei dynasty geniuses who were injured by my daughter, and only ask the young master to spare my daughter. Yu Wajin had not failed to see the previous power of the Daixin young master. If Yu Changxiu was really taken by this son, how could she have a good end? Naturally, he would never allow such a thing to happen. HMPH. Old thief, what do you mean by this? How can we care about your compensation? It is a blessing that your daughter can be a maid for the Daixin young master. How dare you refuse? Could it be that you don't take the Daixin young master seriously? The Dewei dynasty geniuses who were defeated by Yu Changxiu revealed cold gleams in their eyes and sneered, their words piercing to the heart. Obviously, they would not give up unless they pushed the Lingtian sect into the fire pit. Hearing this, Yu Wajin was uneasy and his eyes were terrified, but he didn't dare to say more, only looking nervously at the Lixian sect's location. He and Elder Li of the Lixian sect had a friendship when they were young. Before, Elder Li's son, Li Kunyun, seemed to be quite interested in his little daughter. Now, in desperation, he didn't know who to turn to for help, so he could only look at the other party. Trying to seek help. However, Elder Li did not respond to his gaze. Li Kunyun, on the other hand, couldn't help but look up, as if wanting to say something, but sensing his father's gaze, he immediately lowered his head, not daring to speak. Although they were disciples of the Lixian sect, one was only an outer elder, and Li Kunyun himself was only an inner disciple, not a core genius like Hua Tiandu. In the Lixian sect, they didn't have much say. If the other party was from another force, pleading would be fine, but who was Dai Tianyi, the young master of Emperor Heart City? The only son of the city lord of Emperor Heart City, the apple of Emperor Heart City's eye. This person's temper has always been eccentric, moody, and if he went crazy, he was capable of anything. Who would dare to risk their own life? Seeing Elder Li turn a blind eye to his plea for help, Yu Wajin couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling in his heart. Hee. Your idea is not bad, Dai Tianyi said with a smile that was not a smile. Receiving Dai Tianyi's praise, the joy on Wu Yao's faces was even greater, and they flattered, young master of Emperor Heart City, that Qin Chen is also extremely extraordinary, even younger than Yu Changxiu, and his cultivation is also extremely terrifying. He seems to be one of the most heaven-defying geniuses in the 5 nations for the past 100 years. If this person is recruited as a subordinate, as a servant, he can barely be worthy of the young master of Emperor Heart City. Oh. Dai Tianyi became interested, looked at Qin Chen, his eyes flashed, and smiled. Such a young late-stage heavenly realm expert is indeed extraordinary. That's right. That's right. Wu Yao and the others nodded and bowed, their attitude extremely flattering. Have you two heard? Are you willing to be my maids and followers, serving me? Dai Tianyi glanced at Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu, and said indifferently. Are you willing to be my maids and followers? Dai Tianyi was high above, as if an emperor facing his two subjects. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was shaken and silent. How would Yu Changxiu and Qin Chen choose? Even if they were not the parties involved, the people of the 5 nations present could not help but secretly break out in a cold sweat. The young master of the Emperor Heart City of the Dewei dynasty was a moody person. If they disobeyed his request, no one knew what he would do. However, Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu, in the Northwest 5 nations, which one was not a prominent figure? How could they be willing to be servants and maids? But at this time, besides agreeing, did the two have any other choice? You want me to be your follower? In this dead silence, when everyone didn't even dare to breathe loudly, Qin Chen, who had never made any movement, suddenly raised his head, and his clear voice spread over this quiet open space. That's right. Dai Tianyi nodded, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Are you willing, or unwilling? Dai Tianyi gave two answers that seemed extremely difficult to ordinary people. No matter how he answered, it would be extremely difficult, facing a huge test. At this moment, countless people's eyes gathered on Qin Chen, wanting to see how he would answer. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I saw Qin Chen raise his head, look at the other party, and then spit out 3 words calmly. Are you worthy? Boom. It was like a bolt from the blue, exploding out of thin air, and everyone was stunned. In an instant, over the entire open space, it was as if a cold wind was blowing, like ice blades, scraping across everyone's bodies, icy and bone-piercing. Are you worthy? No one expected that Qin Chen would answer like this, especially the warriors of the Dewei dynasty. All of them were almost frightened, their eyes were dull, and they looked at Qin Chen in shock, their brains completely crashed. Did he know what he was talking about? This was young Master Dai Tianyi of Emperor Heart City. Not to mention these 5 nations, even the strong men of the major forces of the Dewei dynasty would not dare to speak to Dai Tianyi like this. Was this guy crazy? Even if he was looking for death, there was no need to say it like this, right? This was going to bring the Northwest 5 nations into a desperate situation. Where the Lixian sect was located, Li Kunyun also raised his head, staring at Qin Chen in horror, his mouth wide open, and he was stunned. He had not learned Qin Chen's boldness, and he dared to talk nonsense when facing himself. But the person he was facing now was young Master Dai Tianyi of Emperor Heart City, and he dared to say that he was really ignorant and fearless. At this moment, Li Kunyun's resentment towards Qin Chen was not as deep as it was at the beginning. This guy was simply a madman. If he resented such a madman, wouldn't he also become an idiot? Even Hua Tiandu, the son of the Lixian sect, and Leng Wushuang, the son of Leng Shu, who had been staring at Gu Nandu since they came to the high platform, couldn't help but lower their heads and glanced at Qin Chen. Obviously, they were surprised by the arrogance and boldness of this disciple from the 5 nations. Among the crowd, perhaps only the cloaked man was not shocked by this answer. This Dai Tianyi is really an idiot. He doesn't even look at who that kid is. This person's cultivation is so high that even I dare to plot against him. Would he be scared by your little young master? Seeing everyone dumbfounded, the cloaked man felt extremely happy, and it seemed that he was not the only one who was frightened by this guy. Qin Chen is right. Are you worthy? Amidst the shock of the crowd, another clear and cold voice sounded. The crowd turned their heads to look, and saw Yu Changxiu also walking out of the crowd, her eyes cold. Her expression was indifferent, and she held the hilt of her sword, using her actions to prove her answer. Changxiu. Yu Wajan's face changed drastically, and he said anxiously. But Yu Changxiu's expression remained unchanged, only her eyes were colder. Crazy. All crazy. In the hearts of the people of the Dewei dynasty, they only felt that their worldview had collapsed, and they were almost stunned. At this moment, in the hearts of the warriors of the 5 nations, a surge of unprecedented blood and pride rose, and they couldn't help but clench their hands. Who dared to say that there was no one in their 5 nations? While everyone was shocked, Wu Yao and the others were almost frightened at this moment. Bold. How dare you say that to the young master of Emperor Heart City? How dare you? Lawless. Too arrogant. Boy. Do you know what you are talking about? Quickly kneel down and apologize to the young master of Emperor Heart City. One by one, they hurriedly roared out. Humph. The black-clothed old man beside Dai Tianyi also snorted coldly and took a step forward. In an instant, the world changed color, and an invisible force imprisoned the void, full of killing aura. Obviously, as long as Dai Tianyi gave an order, he would suddenly move. Uncle Quan. Dai Tianyi raised his hand, stopped the black-clothed old man, and suddenly laughed out loud on his cloudy and uncertain face. Ha ha ha. Interesting, it's so interesting. In the laughter, his figure moved suddenly. Boom. Like a thunderous riot, it turned into a cold blade, did not pounce on Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu, but pounced on Wu Yao and the others below. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of Wu Yao and the others, and suddenly raised his hand. Young master of Emperor Heart City, you. Wu Yao and the others looked terrified, not knowing what had happened at all. Before they could react, a terrifying force instantly rushed into their bodies. No. The next moment, a few people screamed, their bodies suddenly burst open, turning into countless blood rain, scattered all over the ground. A black shadow flashed, and before everyone could react, Dai Tianyi had already returned to the high platform. Gently wiping his palms, his posture was enchanting. It's creepy. Everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. Dai Tianyi didn't attack Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu, but instead killed Wu Yao and the others from the Dewei dynasty. This. Everyone was dumbfounded, completely unaware of what was happening. On the high platform, Dai Tianyi coldly looked at the corpses of Wu Yao and the others below, and snorted coldly, "A bunch of trash, you've disgraced my Xuanzu. You're still jumping around here, shameless. If I don't kill you, how can I restore the prestige of my Xuanzu? Your death is not a pity." In Dai Tianyi's view, Wu Yao and the others actually lost to people from the Northwest Five Nations, making the Dewei dynasty a laughing stock of the Five Nations. Moreover, they were shameless and still jumping around here. Such people naturally deserved to die. I remember, these people should be from the Tianmen Prefecture and Lingjian sect of Xuanzu, right? If the Tianmen Prefecture and Lingjian sect are not convinced, they can come to Dixon City to find me, and I will play with them properly. Dai Tianyi said indifferently, coldly sweeping across the many Dewei dynasty experts in the arena. Everyone smiled wryly, their mouths twitching. This Dai Tianyi was indeed arrogant, killing people at every turn, and even telling the Tianmen Prefecture and Lingjian sect to go to Dixon City to find him if they were not convinced. I'm afraid that before you go to find trouble with these two major forces, they will already be thanking God. How dare they go looking for you again? As for you two, then. Dai Tianyi looked at Qin Chen and Yu Changxiu again, revealing a cold smile. You have ruined the reputation of my Dewei dynasty. I can give you one more chance to choose to submit to me immediately. I can forgive the past, otherwise, I will have to kill you two to uphold the prestige of my Dewei dynasty. Your Excellency, please calm down. Let's talk it over. Xiao Zhan's expression changed, and he hurriedly spoke, wanting to plead for mercy, but was stopped by Qin Chen. Lord Xiao Zhan, why beg him? What prestige does a mere dynasty have? It's laughable. Moreover, this person is just a paper tiger, a coward. Qin Chen sneered. He had never heard of this Dewei dynasty in his previous life, so it was likely not a remarkable force. Moreover, it was just a state city under this dynasty, yet it was talking about prestige here. What did you say? Dai Tianyi's eyes suddenly shot out a sharp light. Am I wrong? Your Excellency is relying on your extraordinary status to show off your power here. Do you think they are afraid of you personally? You are wrong. What they are afraid of is your identity as the young master of Dixon City. If you were not the young master of Dixon City and had experts protecting you, would you dare to be so reckless? Qin would dare to guarantee that you would be a cripple within an hour. You are still talking about prestige here. Don't you find it ridiculous? Boom. Qin Chen's words immediately caused an uproar. Crazy, crazy, this guy is crazy. They had never heard of anyone daring to talk to the young master of Dixon City like this, and even saying that Dai Tianyi was relying on his status to show off his power. Didn't this guy know the principle that disaster comes from the mouth? Admittedly, Everyone's fear of Dai Tianyi was more because of his identity as the young master of Dixon City, but no one dared to deny that Dai Tianyi was young, and his cultivation had already reached the late peak of the Xuan realm. Countless warriors had died in his hands, and the reputation of the three great geniuses was not for nothing, but was earned with fists. Ha ha, interesting, Dai Tianyi, did you hear that? Stop showing off your power in the future. Young Master Leng Wushuang, could no longer maintain his composure and laughed loudly. Even these lowly people from the 5 nations dare to laugh at you, Dai Tianyi. You're doing well. Hua Tiandu also spoke, his words laced with sarcasm. The 3 great geniuses of Xuanzu were competing with each other, and naturally, they disliked each other very much. How could they let go of such a good opportunity to attack Dai Tianyi? Dai Tianyi's face was gloomy. He naturally wouldn't take the ridicule of others to heart, but how could he tolerate being ridiculed by Hua Tiandu and the others? Suddenly, he focused all his anger on Qin Chen, and his whole body exuded a strong murderous intent. Just as he was about to make a move, he saw Qin Chen look at Hua Tiandu with disdain. Is your excellency very noble? In my opinion, your Lixian sect is even more unbearable. Let's talk about this Li Kunyun of your Lixian sect. Not long ago, he was pestering Yu Changxiu, desperately pursuing her, and even repeatedly threatened me. Just now, when this young master of Dixon City coldly rebuked Yu Changxiu, this Li Kunyun acted like a tortoise, hiding somewhere. From this, it can be seen that your Lixian sect disciples are not much better, only knowing how to bully the weak and fear the strong. PFFT. Li Kunyun's eyes went dark, and he almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He was really too unlucky. He could get shot even while lying down. His eyes were panicked, and he hurriedly explained, "Senior brother, it's not like that. This kid is spouting nonsense." Am I spouting nonsense? Who was it that threatened me in Gufeng City? Telling me to leave Yu Changxiu, otherwise I would be in for a good time. TSK. Some people rushed all the way from the Lingtian sect to Gufeng City, following Yu Changxiu like a pug, pursuing her all the way. I didn't expect you to forget so quickly. I don't know whether to say you are fickle or that noble people are forgetful. Oh. Right. Qin Chen seemed to have thought of something and looked at Hua Fu in the Lixian sect crowd. You were also there at the time, disdainful of the people of my 5 nations. You must not have forgotten, right? Hua Fu's face was gloomy and he didn't say anything. You. Li Kunyun was so angry that he vomited blood, his forehead veins bulging, his body swayed, and he suddenly rushed towards Qin Chen, roaring, "I'll kill you." Boom. His whole body exuded a strong murderous intent, and the silver fan in his hand waved, and a fan shadow suddenly burst out, cutting through the void, wanting to cut Qin Chen in half with one fan. However, before the fan shadow could arrive, a fist shadow suddenly swept over, and with a bang, it instantly blasted the fan shadow, and even shook Li Kunyun upside down. Everyone hurriedly turned their heads to look, and after seeing who the attacker was, they were all dumbfounded and speechless. The one who attacked was actually Dai Tianyi. Dai Tianyi saw that he had blasted Li Kunyun away with one move, and couldn't help but clap his hands, dancing with joy, and laughing loudly. "Kid, there's such a thing. Ha ha ha. Interesting, the Lixian sect are all cowards who bully the weak and fear the strong." Well said, well said. But you don't know, in fact, the biggest coward in this Lixian sect is this Hua Tiandu. Isn't there a saying that goes, like master, like disciple, ha ha, ha ha ha. Dai Tianyi, who was previously full of contempt for Qin Chen, now had a look of appreciation and nodded frequently. Li Kunyun, what exactly is going on? Hua Tiandu glared at Li Kunyun. Li Kunyun was sweating profusely and stammered, "Senior brother, it's all a misunderstanding." Li Kunyun's father, Elder Li, also quickly said, "Tian Du, this kid is just talking nonsense. How could Kunyun do such a thing? Is that so?" Hua Tiandu snorted coldly, "Please Elder Li, take care of your son. After so long, he is still stuck in the half-step Xuan realm. Instead of wasting time on this, he should focus on cultivation and break through to the 4th order Xuan realm as soon as possible, so as to avoid embarrassing my Lixian sect outside." What kind of person was Hua Tiandu? If what Qin Chen said was all nonsense, his junior sister Huafu would not have such an expression. Yes, Elder Li was angry in his heart, but he didn't dare to say a word. Although he was an outer sect elder, his position in the sect was simply incomparable to Hua Tiandu. He could only give Qin Chen a fierce look. After scolding Li Kunyun and Elder Li, Hua Tiandu glared at Qin Chen, his eyes narrowed slightly. Kid, you have ruined the reputation of my Lixian sect. Do you know what your crime is? Today, I will kill you. A terrifying murderous intent, like a storm, instantly descended and swept over Qin Chen. With a single movement, a murderous intent arose. The entire area was enveloped in a dense killing aura. What should be his crime? Semicolon. Qin Chen sneered, without a hint of fear. What do you think your Lixian sect is? A royal dynasty hegemony, or an imperial noble? Are you worthy to judge this young master? Just a small sect under a dynasty, don't be afraid of your tongue being cut off by the wind. Semicolon. The crowd was shaken. This Qin Chen is truly mad. Having offended Dai Tianyi, he actually offends Hua Tiandu. Where does he get his confidence? Even if he doesn't care for his own life, he should consider his country. Do you think Dai Tianyi can protect you? Semicolon. Hua Tiandu's eyes were cold, and without any action, an invisible pressure was born in the world. Not to mention the experts from the 5 nations, even the geniuses and experts from the Dewei dynasty had difficulty breathing and the true essence stagnated under this pressure. As expected of one of the 3 great prodigies of Xuanzu, although he has not yet stepped into the 5th-tier sect realm, his gestures contain amazing majesty, making people change color upon seeing it. The demeanor of a strong man is on full display. Everyone was speechless. Wouldn't Qin Chen really be pinning his hopes on Dai Tianyi? Although Dai Tianyi had blocked Li Kunyun's attack for him earlier, that was just to embarrass the Lixian sect. If Hua Tiandu really wanted to kill Qin Chen at all costs, Dai Tianyi would not fight Hua Tiandu to the death for such a trivial matter. How can a peerless prodigy be so easily used? The most frightened was Xiao Zhan and the others from the Darky Kingdom, each looking at Qin Chen suspiciously. In their understanding, Qin Chen did not seem like a reckless person, so why was he so strong in front of Dai Tianyi and Hua Tiandu? Could it be that Qin Yuqi did not leave the 5 nations? Xiao Zhan shuddered. Only this reason could explain why Qin Chen was so unafraid. Although they didn't know how strong Qin Yuqi's cultivation was, she was definitely not an ordinary 5th-tier martial ancestor, capable of killing Gui Xianpai Nian Shuo with a casual strike, making it difficult for him to escape even by using secret techniques. Dai Tianyi. This young master doesn't need Dai Tianyi to protect me. As long as you dare to kill me, someone will naturally take action for this young master. Hey Niu, why aren't you protecting this young master? Semicolon. Qin Chen smiled faintly, suddenly turning his head to look at a certain spot in the crowd below. Hey Niu. Everyone followed Qin Chen's gaze, wanting to see who this Hey Niu who was protecting Qin Chen was, daring to target even Hua Tiandu. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a black-clothed man wearing a cloak appeared in front of everyone. Because of the cloak's cover, his face could not be seen clearly at all. One after another, powerful senses swept over instantly, including the top experts of the 3 major forces on the high platform. As soon as the senses swept over, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, because they couldn't detect the cultivation of this cloaked man. Even the experts from the 3 top forces became solemn. Being able to avoid their senses, this person's cultivation would definitely not be too different from theirs, and he must have cultivated some kind of secret technique to conceal his aura. Tiandu, this person is not simple. Semicolon. A low voice sounded, and the leading elder of the Lixian sect said in a deep voice in Hua Tiandu's ear, his eyes solemn. Hua Tiandu's eyes also turned cold, not expecting that in these 5 nations, there would actually be such a martial ancestor expert guarding this young man, completely beyond expectations. Wasn't it said that even martial ancestors were rarely seen in these 5 nations? Being stared at by countless gazes, the cloaked man felt so depressed that he almost vomited blood. How could this damn kid know I was here? Semicolon. He had just been hiding in the crowd, without making a sound, and even the people from the 3 major forces of Xuanzu had not discovered him. Unexpectedly, Qin Chen pointed out his location with one glance, instantly shattering his original plan to hide in a low-key manner. What made the cloaked man even more angry was that Qin Chen actually gave him the nickname Hey Nu, which was simply too much. Calm down, calm down. Semicolon. Breathing rapidly, the cloaked man was so angry that he wanted to rush to the high platform on the spot and chop Qin Chen into pieces. However, he could only think about it in his heart. Once he attacked Qin Chen, he would not only expose his strength, but even the Qinglian demonic fire would be exposed in front of everyone. At that time, even if he obtained the Qinglian demonic fire, he would have endless troubles. Therefore, no matter what, he couldn't let Qin Chen be killed by Hua Tiandu, exposing the existence of the Qinglian demonic fire. Humph. Semicolon. With a cold snort, an invisible, gloomy aura suddenly spread out from his body. This aura was like coming from the nine nether hell, full of coldness. Hiss. Gasps of cold air rose and fell, and all the martial artists standing around the cloaked man turned pale, retreating one after another as if they had seen a ghost. What a terrifying Yin Sha aura. Semicolon. This person is at least a mid-stage sect-level expert, or even more. Semicolon. No wonder Qin Chen is so fearless, it turns out that there is such a strong person standing behind him. Semicolon. Once a mid-stage 5th-tier martial ancestor becomes enraged, even the experts from the three major forces present will find it difficult to please him. After all, this is not Xuanzu, their base camp. Once something happens to the three great prodigies, what use would it be even if the three major forces of Xuanzu slaughtered these 5 nations? Semicolon. On the high platform, Qin Chen had a smile on his lips. He knew why the cloaked man was snorting coldly. On the surface, he was standing up for himself, but in reality, it was a warning to himself. But Qin Chen knew that for the sake of the Qinglian demonic fire on his body, even if this cloaked man risked his life, he would not let him die in Hua Tiandu's hands. With this person here, Hua Tiandu would not dare to act at all. Ha ha ha. Hua Tiandu, didn't you just say that you would definitely kill this kid? Why is there no movement? Don't worry, I definitely won't stop you this time. If you want to make a move, hurry up. The dignified sect master's son of the Lixian sect wouldn't go back on his word, right? Semicolon. Seeing this, Dai Tianyi couldn't help laughing out loud, mocking and ridiculing. Hua Tiandu snorted coldly, retracting the murderous intent on his body. He didn't expect that this kid was actually hiding such a strong person behind him. The purpose of this trip was for this ancient southern capital, and Dai Tianyi and Leng Wushuang were also eyeing him covetously, so he could only let this kid go for now and make a decision after the ancient southern capital's inheritance was over. Thinking of this, Hua Tiandu smiled coldly. Hua Tiandu, do you still have the heart to care about me? Just now, this kid said that you are not worthy for him to submit to you. Why? Is the dignified Emperor Heart young master unmoved even after being insulted like this? Semicolon. Dai Tianyi laughed and said, you don't know this. This young master despises those who are greedy for life and afraid of death the most, but I admire warriors who would rather die than submit. This child's cultivation is only at the late stage of the heaven realm, but he dares to disobey this young master's majesty. This young master admires him in my heart, so why would I care about this little bit of defiance? It's you who have been scolded as bullying the weak and fearing the strong, but you don't seem to have any reaction. Semicolon. Oh, I understand. As if thinking of something, Dai Tianyi's face showed a dawning. I forgot. You Lixian sect are all cowards who bully the weak and fear the strong. Now that this child has shown some strength, it naturally makes your Hua Tiandu feel apprehensive and dare not attack. Hee hee. This child's analysis just now was indeed brilliant. I, Dai Tianyi, admire him somewhat. Semicolon. The two of them exchanged words, mocking each other, but it stunned the rest of the people present. Qin Chen's life and death crisis seemed to disappear instantly. After this disruption, neither Hua Tiandu nor Dai Tianyi mentioned punishing Qin Chen again. It seemed as if everything that had just happened was merely a joke. This secretly astonished many of the Great Wei dynasty's geniuses. A young man from the 5 nations was able to snatch back his life from the hands of the Daixin young master and the Lu Xian sect's disciple. Regardless of his cultivation level, this feat alone was enough to draw attention. Perhaps, to outsiders, the Daixin young master and the Luxian sect's disciple let Qin Chen go because of the mysterious cloaked figure. However, some who understood the situation knew that with the power of Daixin City and the Luxian sect, they wouldn't care about a martial sect expert. More likely, Qin Chen cleverly used the conflict between the two, as well as the opportunity presented by the ancient southern capital, to turn danger into safety. Amidst this atmosphere, after a brief moment, rumble. The ancient southern capital above everyone's heads suddenly shook violently, and a terrifying aura instantly spread out. Visibly, the ancient southern capital city emitted a terrifying black light, with bizarre and fantastical scenes constantly flashing. The magnificent city slowly descended under everyone's watchful eyes, appearing before them. It's open. The ancient southern capital, which opens once every 5 years, has finally opened. In a low murmur, the entire ancient southern capital city, under everyone's gaze, crashed onto the plain with a loud boom. This was an extremely ancient city, radiating a vast aura, as if it had undergone the baptism of endless years, leaving behind a sense of vicissitude and antiquity. Looking around, in the center of the ancient city, there was actually a magnificent arena, towering high. The arena was built from unknown materials, with mottled traces remaining on it, as if it had experienced endless slaughter, leaving behind only glorious legends. This is the ancient southern capital's wind and cloud arena. According to rumors in the 5 nations, only those who obtain a top 10 ranking on the arena and are recognized by the ancient southern capital's remnant consciousness can obtain the qualifications for inheritance. A Great Wei dynasty disciple muttered to himself. Coming from the more vast Great Wei dynasty, these disciples had entered many relics, but a relic like this ancient city descending with an arena had never been heard of within the Great Wei dynasty. Ancient southern capital relic. Let this old man see if this heaven-defying relic, rumored throughout the 5 nations, is as powerful as the rumors say, and if it's worth our Great Wei dynasty's geniuses fighting for. At this moment, a cold laugh suddenly came from the Great Wei dynasty's group. Immediately afterward, a top expert standing in front of a certain faction's group flashed and shot toward the ancient city. His figure was like lightning, and with his arms spread out, he was like a rock soaring through the sky, with a fierce and awe-inspiring presence. Seeing this, the various forces of the Northwest 5 nations were all stunned, and then a cold smile appeared on their lips. Just as the Great Wei dynasty expert was about to enter the ancient southern capital city, suddenly, a buzzing sound rang out. A mysterious force rose from the ancient city and quietly engulfed the Great Wei dynasty expert's body. With a bang, before the Great Wei dynasty expert could react, his body suddenly exploded in the void, turning into a blood mist and disappearing without even a scream. Dead. Dead. The fall of a martial sect expert caused the Great Wei dynasty's people to narrow their eyes. Someone from the 5 nations sneered. He wanted to rush in before the ancient southern capital relic was even opened. He truly doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The ancient southern capital relic had been in the 5 nations for nearly 100 years, and the people of the 5 nations naturally understood it very well. Before it was opened, it was impossible to enter it. Otherwise, regardless of cultivation level, one would explode and die. Hearing this, all the restless Great Wei dynasty experts felt a chill in their hearts and dared not act rashly again, all staring at the 5 nations people, observing their actions. Buzz. A moment later, the ancient city emitted a thick light, enveloping the entire city. Within it, 7 colored lights rose, constantly flowing, like the aurora borealis, dazzling and intoxicating. The ancient southern capital's barrier has appeared. The second round of the competition, the arena battle, has finally begun. Only martial artists who pass through the ancient southern capital's 7-colored barrier and pass the ancient southern capital's assessment are qualified to enter the center of the arena to compete for fortune. This time, with so many Great Wei dynasty geniuses gathered, I wonder how many people from our 5 nations will ultimately be able to reach this arena and participate in the competition. Whispers came from the 5 nations. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the next moment, a series of rapid sounds of air being torn apart rang out. Instantly, The Five Nations geniuses on the high platform all moved, rushing toward the seven-colored rainbow light. Boom! The first to rush in was a genius from the Great Liang Kingdom. This person was in his 20s, wearing a green robe, and his speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he broke through the seven-colored barrier and rushed into the rainbow light, his figure hardly stopping. It's Yuan Feng, the number one genius of the Great Liang Kingdom. What speed! The crowd exclaimed. Yuan Feng of the Great Liang Kingdom had already broken through to the profound realm 2 years ago and was also the runner-up in the previous ancient southern capital competition. 5 years had passed, and everyone had long forgotten how terrifying this person had become, but secretly, they had given him the title of the number one genius of the Five Nations. However, previously, under the brilliance of the Great Wei dynasty's geniuses, Yuan Feng was very low-key, so much so that everyone had not remembered this person for a while. Now that the ancient southern capital had opened and he revealed his powerful cultivation, everyone paid attention. After Yuan Feng, many geniuses from the Five Nations who were already prepared followed closely behind, each waving their fists to break through the seven-colored rainbow and rush into the glow. Oh, I didn't expect there to be such a genius in these Five Nations. Hee, interesting. Noticing Yuan Feng's profound realm cultivation, many of the Great Wei dynasty's geniuses smiled, slightly interested. Being able to break through to the profound realm before the age of 24 was considered a good genius in the Great Wei dynasty, and Yuan Feng had already entered the profound realm 2 years ago. His talent was already not weaker than many ordinary Great Wei dynasty geniuses. But that was all it was, interest. A profound realm genius at the age of 24, although good in the Great Wei dynasty, could only be considered middle of the road, not top-notch. Moreover, what a genius truly competed for was their battle prowess, not their superficial cultivation. It seems that the ancient southern capital relic has really opened. Let's go too. With the Five Nations geniuses paving the way, the Great Wei dynasty's geniuses also rose up one after another, rushing toward the seven-colored rainbow. Among them, Hua Tiandu, Dai Tianyi, and Leng Wushuang, the three great geniuses, flew in the forefront, and the rest of the Great Wei dynasty's geniuses were all behind them, no one daring to overstep in the slightest. Whoosh! This scene immediately drew gasps from the crowd. What just happened? Why didn't Hua Tiandu and the others make a move? How did this seven-colored rainbow light open a passage on its own? Yes. Could it be that this seven-colored rainbow light knew that the three of them possessed extraordinary cultivation, so it automatically opened a passage? Impossible. This seven-colored rainbow light is a barrier of the ancient southern capital. It only examines whether one meets the qualifications to enter the ancient southern capital and would never show leniency. Everyone from the Five Nations was dumbfounded, completely unable to understand what had happened. Even Xiao Zhan and the others were stunned. It should be known that in the 100-year history of the ancient southern capital's assessment, such a thing had never happened. What impressive three great prodigies. To think that their control of true energy would reach such a pinnacle. No wonder so many geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty are so awed by them. Qin Chen nodded. Among the Five Nations, only he understood. It wasn't that the seven-colored rainbow light opened automatically upon seeing the three of them, but that the moment the three of them entered the seven-colored rainbow light, they released their own energy, using true energy to form an invisible pressure with extreme destructive power in front of their bodies. Under the sweep of the pressure, they opened the seven-colored rainbow light and rushed into it. This is an extremely brilliant method of controlling true energy, representing that the three of them's comprehension of true energy had reached a perfect state, able to be deployed at will, change arbitrarily, and be unrestrained. Only from a distance, it formed such a special effect, causing the people of the Five Nations to think that the ancient southern capital had taken the initiative to open the passage, shocking them endlessly. Therefore, when the exclamations of the people of the Five Nations reached the ears of the many experts of the Great Wei dynasty, it immediately seemed extremely ridiculous. Ha, these people from the Five Nations are too hilarious. It was clearly young Master Dixing and the others who used the true energy to break through the seven-colored rainbow light, but they thought that the ancient southern capital had taken the initiative to open the passage. How truly lowly. You can't say that about them. These 5 nations are located in a remote corner of the continent. They can be said to be frogs in a well, unaware of the vastness of the world, unable to understand such profound applications of true energy. It's only normal. Semicolon. Yes, we should be tolerant towards these kinds of inferiors and not discriminate against them. Semicolon. That's right. Our coming here this time can be considered as broadening their horizons. Semicolon. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Many experts of the Great Wei dynasty almost burst out laughing loudly, speaking in a strange and sarcastic manner. That kind of condescending implication made the people of the 5 nations feel nothing but shame, clenching their teeth tightly. Bang! At this moment, among the Great Wei dynasty, a profound-level genius had just come into contact with the 7-colored rainbow light when he suddenly let out a miserable cry. An invisible force swept across his body, and his entire person exploded, turning into a bloody mist, his bones gone without a trace. This scene immediately attracted everyone's attention, especially the force to which the genius belonged. Their eyes narrowed, the gazes filled with shock and anger. HMPH. This person's age has exceeded 24, right? Calculated by date of birth. Once one exceeds 24 years of age, any genius who wants to enter the ancient southern capital will be turned into nothingness by the power of this 7-colored rainbow light. This is an iron law. Semicolon. For the dignified Great Wei dynasty to actually have disciples trying to muddle through, I really don't know what they were thinking. Semicolon. Exceeding 24 years of age and still calling yourself a young genius. Wishful thinking. Having been ridiculed repeatedly before, and with a belly full of fire, the many martial artists of the 5 nations seized the opportunity to mock the other side, their words filled with sarcasm. What are you saying? Semicolon. The expert from the force to which the genius belonged cast an icy gaze, suddenly turning his head to look over, his eyes bursting with a dense killing intent. The entire place instantly fell silent, and the mocking sounds came to an abrupt halt. Lowly commoners are just lowly commoners. If not for the agreement on the continent that prohibits the wanton slaughter of people from lower-level forces, this old man would have started a massacre here today, slaughtering all of you lowly commoners from the 5 nations. Semicolon. The old man coldly shouted, his tone filled with a strong threat. You. Despicable. The people of the 5 nations on the field all angrily clenched their fists, but they dared not speak out. Although the other party was arrogant, he possessed astonishing strength. If he were to become enraged, killing a large number of people, probably no one among the 5 nations could stop him. They could only swallow their anger. At this time, no fewer than several hundred disciples had already entered the 7-colored rainbow light of the ancient southern capital. Let's go to. Semicolon. On the great Qi nation side of the high platform, Qin Chen and the others had not moved. Only at this time did they leap into the air. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Among the many disciples of the great Qi nation, Qin Chen flew in the forefront, the first to approach the 7-colored rainbow light. What kind of relic is this ancient southern capital? This 7-colored rainbow light in front of me is not the power of an array formation, but it can identify a martial artist's cultivation and age. What kind of power is it? Semicolon. Approaching the 7-colored rainbow light, Qin Chen did not activate the true energy within his body, but wanted to carefully sense the power within this 7-colored rainbow light. Bang! But to his surprise, without urging his true energy, his body crashed into the 7-colored rainbow light, as if hitting a wall, and was blocked out by this 7-colored rainbow light. In contrast, 4th Prince Zhao Wei, Princess Xixun, Zhao Lingshan, Wang Qiming, and others had true energy surrounding their bodies and broke through the 7-colored rainbow light one after another, entering the ancient southern capital. PFFT. This sudden scene caused many of the Great Wei dynasty experts who were paying attention to Qin Chen to almost burst out laughing. Immediately afterward, one by one clutched their stomachs, laughing loudly, almost rolling on the ground. What did they see? That youth who had just retorted young Master Dixing and the son of the leaving immortal sect actually couldn't even break through the 7-colored rainbow light, almost breaking his head. Ha ha ha. This guy is called Qin Chen, right? He was so arrogant just now, I thought he was someone, but I didn't expect that he couldn't even break through the barrier of this ancient southern capital. Semicolon. Yes. According to my observation, as long as a martial artist above the heaven level can break through that 7-colored barrier, this guy is good. He was actually directly blocked outside. PFFT, is this considered a genius of the 5 nations? Semicolon. I can't take it anymore. I'm about to die. It's too hilarious. Ha ha ha. Didn't the 5 nations send this guy to be funny? Semicolon. The crowd exploded, one by one laughing heartily, tears almost flowing down. Even Dai Tianyi and the others who had entered the 7-colored rainbow light earlier couldn't help but turn their heads to look over, their brows slightly furrowed. What's going on? Although the aura on the Qin Chen's body is not very strong, it has at least reached the late heaven level, and according to observation, as long as one is under 24 years old and their cultivation has reached the heaven level, they can break through this 7-colored barrier. How could this kid? One by one were full of confusion, unable to understand. Qin Chen, Zixun and Zhao Lingshan also hurriedly stopped and turned their heads to look over. It's okay, I'm just studying this 7-colored barrier. Semicolon. Qin Chen smiled wryly. He also didn't expect that concealing his true energy would cause this consequence. Qin Chen's words immediately drew another burst of hearty laughter from many experts of the Great Wei dynasty. Hey, what did I just hear? Researching this 7-colored barrier. PFFT, who does he think he is? The 9 Heavens Martial Emperor. Ha ha ha, he's bragging without even thinking. He's just a heaven-level martial artist, and he wants to research the mysterious power of this ancient ruin. He's thinking too much. The crowd erupted, laughing even harder. Several martial artists from the Great Wei dynasty were bent over, almost rolling on the ground. This was simply too damn funny. A ruin like the ancient southern capital comes from ancient times. Even the top 9 heavens martial emperors of the continent wouldn't dare say they could research it. He's just a heaven-level martial artist, yet he says he wants to research it. Isn't he afraid of being laughed at? At this moment, everyone couldn't help but suspect that Qin Chen had a problem with his brain. First, he angrily rebuked young Master Dixing and the Lu Xian sect disciple, and now he says he wants to research this ancient southern capital ruin. No matter how you look at it, it's abnormal. It must be said that if this kid specifically wanted to be funny, then the effect has already been achieved. Qin Chen naturally ignored the ridicule from the outside world. He became even more interested, circulating his true essence in his right hand and slowly probing into the 7-colored rainbow light. Buzz. As expected, under the operation of his true essence, the 7-colored barrier was immediately torn open, and when Qin Chen's arm penetrated into the 7-colored barrier, Qin Chen instantly felt as if an invisible force was scanning his body. This force was extremely mysterious, different from true energy and bloodline power, and also not spiritual power or soul power, but a certain unique special power, scanning his entire body. Under this power, Qin Chen felt that he had no secrets at all. Everything was instantly scanned thoroughly. Except for the mysterious ancient book in his mind that didn't react, almost all other secrets were exposed. What a strange power. Qin Chen was shocked. It was only after his soul power reached the point of gathering and solidifying that he could vaguely sense this mysterious power, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to detect it at all. PFFT. True energy flowed, and Qin Chen easily broke through the 7-colored barrier and entered it. That kid went in. He wasn't blocked again. Looks like he's lucky. Ha ha ha. Little brother, have you researched anything yet? Someone shouted, immediately eliciting another burst of laughter. Too lazy to pay attention to these boring guys, Qin Chen flickered and landed in the ancient southern capital. Seeing Qin Chen come in, Princess Zixun, Zhao Lingshan, and the others breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, as the geniuses flew in one after another, almost all the geniuses under the age of 24 who had reached the heaven level and passed the ancient southern capital assessment entered the interior of the ancient southern capital. Buzz. Not long after the last genius entered the ancient southern capital, as if the time had come, the entire ancient southern capital suddenly shook, and the 7-colored rainbow light on the outside instantly stopped flowing, becoming a wall of light, no longer allowing anyone to enter. Since then, all the geniuses who participated in the ancient southern capital assessment this time gathered. Originally, The number of places for the 5 nations to pass the first round of assessment was 236, plus the geniuses from the previous session and previous years, totaling less than 400 places. However, due to the addition of the Great Wei Dynasty geniuses, the number of people entering the ancient southern capital this time soared to about 600, becoming the most in history. The place where everyone was located was an open space, seemingly a plaza in the ancient southern capital. The plaza was surrounded by 7 colored streamers. After everyone entered, they could not leave. Besides staying in this plaza, they could not go anywhere else. Boom! A genius from the Great Wei Dynasty punched the light cover, only to feel his arm hitting an iron wall. The light cover didn't move at all. Instead, his own right hand was severely pained by the violent recoil. What exactly is this place? Wasn't it said that we were participating in an inheritance assessment? Why did they send us here and then there's no movement? This person's face was gloomy, and he coldly shouted in a low voice, staring coldly at a genius from the 5 nations beside him. The genius from the 5 nations was startled and said, "The ancient southern capital assessment is very complicated. There will be a preliminary assessment first. Only those who pass the preliminary assessment can enter the arena for the final arena finals. And those who win in the arena will have the opportunity to obtain the inheritance." What preliminary assessment? Nonsense. The man frowned, impatient, and punched the 5 nations genius. Ha ha. Look, wouldn't it be better to have a direct competition like this? Boom. However, before this person's fist could hit the other party, a 7-colored rainbow light suddenly descended from the sky, instantly striking the Great Wei Dynasty genius who had made the attack. With a poof sound, the Great Wei Dynasty genius suddenly fell apart, his body exploded, turning into a bloody mist. This sudden scene startled everyone, and they looked at the vanished Great Wei Dynasty genius with horror on their faces, their eyes flashing with fear. A heaven-level late-stage peak martial artist was so easily wiped out, causing everyone to feel shocked and angry. What exactly is going on? The 3 great geniuses of the Great Wei Dynasty, who had remained silent, finally couldn't hold back, and the gazes swept over, their tone icy cold. In the ancient southern capital, before the assessment, no one is allowed to take action privately, otherwise they will be bombarded and killed on the spot by the power of this ancient southern capital ruin. Someone from the 5 nations said in a low voice. There's such a thing. Why didn't you say so earlier? The burly youth who came from the same force as the person who was killed earlier coldly shouted in a low voice, his eyes icy cold. They took action to hurt people, but instead blamed the people of the 5 nations for not reminding them. The people of the 5 nations suppressed their anger and said, "You didn't inquire yourselves, and you arbitrarily attacked us. Could it be that you're blaming us? You." The burly youth's gaze was indifferent. How dare a mere 5 nations ant talk back to him? Could it be that he was relying on the fact that he was inside this barrier and he didn't dare to touch him? All right, stop arguing. What is this preliminary assessment? Hua Tiandu's gaze was indifferent, interrupting the two's conversation. We don't know either. The content of each preliminary assessment is different, but it's nothing more than assessments of true energy, speed, strength, comprehension, and other aspects. They are all extremely common assessment contents on the continent, the man said. Buzz. At this moment, an invisible force suddenly descended. The ancient southern capital, which had been silent all along, finally vibrated. On the plaza, black stone chambers suddenly rose up. These black stone chambers were very peculiar, like a strange instrument, with an entrance, and a spirit lamp on top of the stone chamber. Could this shape be a test of the true meaning of martial arts? There is actually a test of the true meaning of martial arts in this ancient southern capital. Is it really a ruin from before the Dark Ages? It is rumored that the test of the true meaning of martial arts can give martial artists a comprehensive understanding of martial arts. It's actually this. Except for Qin Chen, the crowd erupted, and everyone's face was filled with joy. Not only the people on the square, but even countless people from the 5 nations and experts from the Great Wei Dynasty outside the ancient southern capital revealed expressions of amazement on their faces. I didn't expect this assessment to be an assessment of the true meaning of martial arts, someone exclaimed. Unbelievable. Could it be that the quality of the participants this time is significantly better than in previous sessions, which is why this assessment of the true meaning of martial arts has appeared? Everyone present revealed expressions of surprise, clearly indicating that this assessment of the true meaning of martial arts was an extremely important assessment for them. Buzz. Amidst the discussions, suddenly, an invisible force descended. Above everyone's heads, a humanoid black shadow suddenly condensed. This shadow resembled a deity, coldly gazing down at everyone below. This sudden scene caused everyone's eyes to narrow as they stared intently. Welcome everyone to the ancient Southern Capital Arena. I am the referee of the ancient Southern Capital Arena, the black shadow said. Its face was indistinguishable, and only a cold voice echoed across the square. This competition is divided into 3 preliminary assessments. The first preliminary assessment is the true meaning of martial arts. I will select the first batch of 100 participants to undergo the assessment in turn. Only those who pass the first round of preliminary assessment will be able to enter the next round. As expected, it's an assessment of the true meaning of martial arts. This black shadow only appeared in the past when someone obtained victory and entered the inner sanctum of the ancient southern capital to receive inheritance. Why has it appeared here this time? It seems that this ancient southern capital competition is indeed different from the past, unprecedented. Among the 5 nations, some geniuses who had previously won had seen this black shadow. It only appeared when receiving inheritance, but this time, it directly appeared in the preliminary assessment, indicating that this competition was indeed extraordinary. At this time, through communication, the many experts of the Great Wei dynasty also understood this point, and each of them revealed complacent smiles on their faces. HMPH. We have said long ago that leaving this ancient southern capital ruins in these 5 nations is a waste. With the strength of the 5 nations, they simply cannot stimulate the true level of this ruin. That's right. According to what these 5 nations have said, in the past 100 years, the Northwest 5 nations have never witnessed the direct descent of the ancient southern capital's will. But as soon as our Great Wei dynasty's geniuses arrived, the ancient southern capitals will descended on its own. This shows that the ancient southern capitals will recognizes the cultivation of our Great Wei dynasty's geniuses, which is why it appeared. I've said it before, these lowly people are simply not qualified to possess such ruins. Giving it to them is just a waste. Various mocking voices were endless, causing the people of the 5 nations to feel anger in their hearts, but they were powerless to refute. Just as they said, in the past, every ancient southern capital competition had never seen the phenomenon of the ancient southern capitals will directly descending. But this time, as soon as the experts from the Great Wei dynasty arrived, this situation appeared. The meaning represented here was indeed thought-provoking. Now that all the participants have arrived, the first round of preliminary assessment will now begin. Buzz 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 buzz. Along with the black shadow's voice falling, beams of rainbow light directly descended from the sky, enveloping 100 people on the field. This rainbow light seemed to fall randomly. Many people from the 5 nations and the Great Wei dynasty were selected, and Qin Chen was also directly enveloped by that beam of light. The first batch is 100 people. Ha, I was actually selected in the first batch. Young Master Dai Xin, Young Master Lu Xian, and Young Master Leng Shu were also selected in the first batch. Does this mean that the ancient southern capital believes that my talent is in the top 100? A genius from the Wei Heaven dynasty couldn't help but say excitedly. HMPH. I think you're thinking too much. Didn't you see that many people from the 5 nations were also selected? Someone snorted coldly. Okay. But I didn't expect that the ruins in these 5 nations could actually conduct an assessment of the true meaning of martial arts. What a pleasant surprise. That's right. I heard that this assessment of the true meaning of martial arts can allow martial artists to comprehend the martial Tao at various levels. Once passed, one's understanding of the martial Tao will be greatly improved. We actually encountered it. These people from the 5 nations are really lucky. Among the crowd, many of those who were selected were excited and full of anticipation. Only Qin Chen was confused, looking at the black stone chamber in front of him with doubt. In his understanding, this preliminary assessment should be some kind of competition or test, such as the control of true energy, body techniques, speed, strength, and so on. But what was this black stone chamber in front of him? Looking at the knowing and excited gazes of the countless geniuses around him, Qin Chen felt extremely depressed in his heart. Born in the martial domain in his previous life, and after being reborn for 100 years, he didn't know what the so-called true meaning of martial arts was. He had never even heard of it before. All those selected in the first batch, please come to the black stone chamber in front of you and prepare for the assessment of the true meaning of martial arts. The black shadow's indifferent voice descended from the sky. Everyone found their own black stone chamber and stood in front of it. Now, do you all have any questions? The cold, godlike voice resounded again. No one spoke. It was a joke. Although many people present had not personally experienced the true meaning of martial arts, they all understood it extremely well. At this time, they were already eager to enter it, so what questions could they have? Excuse me. Just when everyone thought that the assessment was about to begin, a voice suddenly rang out on the square. Everyone turned their heads to look, only to see Qin Chen standing in front of his black stone chamber, looking at the black shadow with a puzzled expression, and saying, "What exactly is this assessment of the true meaning of martial arts, and what are the rules of the assessment?" Silence. The entire place was instantly silent. Everyone looked at Qin Chen as if they were looking at an alien creature, and they were all stunned. Has this Qin Chen never heard of the true meaning of martial arts? He's actually asking how to assess the true meaning of martial arts. My God, is this person really a martial artist from the martial continent? Could he really be an idiot? Ha ha ha, that's really killing me. Someone actually doesn't even know the true meaning of martial arts. The crowd was stunned, and then burst into an incomparably huge roar of laughter, all of them speechless to the extreme. The true meaning of martial arts is a kind of assessment that has been widely circulated on the martial continent in the recent 100 years. It is said that this kind of assessment comes from an ancient ruin before a certain dark age, and it can allow a martial artist to experience the true energy composition from the first level human stage to the 9 heavens martial emperor. Therefore, all martial artists who have undergone this kind of assessment, regardless of the final result, will have an amazing improvement in the understanding of true energy. It is an assessment that countless martial artists dream of. However, this type of assessment is usually controlled by some powerful forces on the continent. It is almost impossible for people from the 5 nations to receive this kind of assessment. Not only the 5 nations, but even the geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty rarely personally experience the assessment of the true meaning of martial arts. But this does not prevent them from understanding it. Now, seeing that Qin Chen was not even clear about the assessment of the true meaning of martial arts, it naturally attracted the ridicule of everyone. Is this guy really a genius from the 5 nations? Logically, shouldn't the geniuses from the 5 nations be extremely knowledgeable about the trials of this ancient southern capital relic? How could this kid ask such a question? I don't get it. I don't get it. Many people mocked him while also feeling incredibly puzzled. However, the black figure showed no emotion, simply looking at Qin Chen and saying, "The essence of martial arts is a test of a martial artist's ability to understand true energy. After entering this black stone chamber, everyone's mental power will be elevated to an extreme level. Then, in a virtual space, you will observe the changes in true energy from the human level to the martial emperor level, and use your mental power to control it. It tests a martial artist's control and understanding of true energy forms." The essence of martial arts assessment is divided into 9 levels. Each time you pass a level, you will proceed to the next. The spirit lamp outside the black stone chamber will display the current level you are at. The passing standard for the first round of preliminary assessment is to pass at least 4 levels. If you cannot reach 4 levels, you will fail the assessment and be directly removed from the ancient southern capital. Are there any more questions? The black figure lowered its head. Although its features were unclear and it had no eyes, Qin Chen could feel that it was staring at him. So, it's this kind of assessment. It can allow martial artists to observe true energy of various levels. No wonder these people are so excited. Qin Chen nodded. He finally understood what the essence of martial arts assessment was testing. However, he still had a question in his mind. He raised his head, looked directly at the black figure, and said, can the essence of martial arts only be comprehended up to the Nine Heavens Martial Emperor level? Can the realms beyond the Nine Heavens Martial Emperor also be comprehended? In his previous life, Qin Chen was already an 8th level Martial Emperor, and he was quite knowledgeable about the Nine Heavens Martial Emperor realm. Therefore, he wasn't as excited as the other geniuses. What he wanted to know most was the Saint realm beyond the Martial Emperor. Could this relic from the ancient Dark Era simulate it? PFFT. Upon hearing this, the entire audience burst into laughter again. Then, one by one, they were speechless. You're just a heaven-level martial artist, and you're already considering whether the essence of martial arts can comprehend the realms beyond the Martial Emperor. You're thinking too much, right? This guy must have a problem with his brain. With his cultivation, being able to pass the 4th level would already be extremely amazing. Maybe he can't even pass the 4th level, and he can't even pass the preliminary assessment. Yet, he's worrying about what comes after the 9th level. Are all the people from the Northwest 5 nations as arrogant as him? It's simply laughable. I bet this kid can't even pass the 3rd level. I think so too. Ha ha, ha ha ha. For a time, the crowd erupted, with continuous ridicule. As for the experts from the various great might dynasties outside the ancient southern capital, they were even more sneering, utterly speechless. The 5 Nations region was very remote, and its martial arts development was extremely ordinary. This essence of martial arts assessment was said to be extremely difficult. That Qin Chen wasn't thinking about whether he could pass the preliminary assessment, but was actually considering what would come after the 9th level. It was truly speechless. Faced with the crowd's ridicule, Qin Chen remained expressionless, simply staring at the black figure above. The essence of martial arts can only proceed to the Nine Heavens Martial Emperor realm. It is impossible to comprehend beyond the Nine Heavens Martial Emperor. The black figure said plainly, causing Qin Chen to feel regret. If there are no more questions, then let the assessment begin. Under the black figure's announcement, the stone chambers in front of Qin Chen and the others automatically opened, and a group of people walked inside. In an instant, the scenery before Qin Chen's eyes immediately changed, and he directly fell into a vast expanse of whiteness. In this area, nothing could be seen clearly, only emptiness. This is an array formation combined with illusions. Just as he was wondering in his heart, suddenly, the scenery before Qin Chen's eyes changed again. Streams of energy of various shapes, attracting and repelling each other, slowly appeared before Qin Chen. After these streams of energy appeared before Qin Chen, they immediately fused and combined with each other, intertwining with each other, giving birth to new streams of energy, and at the same time, undergoing intense conflicts. Qin Chen sensed it slightly and immediately discovered that his perception was limited to the level of a first-level human, which was hundreds or thousands of times less than his previous 4th-level mental power. Limiting everyone's perception to the human level, so that everyone's ability to control true energy is at the same level. In this way, how strong each martial artist's ability to control true energy is will be clear at a glance. Then, the streams of energy of various forms in front of me should be the true energy of the 1st level, right? With a thought, Qin Chen immediately controlled the true energy in front of him to fuse with each other. He saw that after 2 streams of energy combined with each other, they immediately erupted into intense conflict. Every scene of the conflict between the 2 streams of energy was incredibly clear, as if magnified countless times, appearing in Qin Chen's perception. This is the microscopic manifestation of the interaction between true energy particles. Qin Chen was shocked, his eyes widened. So that's how it is. Every strand of true energy is composed of one or countless attributes of particles, and the process of fusion and confrontation of true energy is the combination and confrontation between various true energy particles. However, the true microscopic manifestation of true energy cannot be seen by any martial artist, but this stone chamber can allow everyone to understand the operation of human-level true energy so directly. This ability is too terrifying. So, this is the essence of martial arts. No wonder those geniuses were so excited before. Qin Chen was shocked. Even he could not achieve this ability. Being able to observe the operation of true energy so directly was of great use even to Qin Chen. As Qin Chen was shocked, Due to the uncontrolled perception, a trace of chaos suddenly occurred between the strands of energy in front of him. Buzz. Outside the black stone chamber where Qin Chen was located, the spirit lamp that was originally dim suddenly began to flicker. Except for Qin Chen's black stone chamber, the remaining stone chambers did not change in any way. Therefore, the sudden change immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people. Everyone was stunned. No way, is Qin Chen already failing so quickly? The change in the spirit lamp represents that there was an accident in the control of true energy inside. This Qin Chen can't even control human-level true energy, right? Ha ha ha. This guy, he was still asking what would come after the 9th level before, PFFT. Look. Only 2 minutes have passed, and he's the only one on the entire square who has made a mistake. It's simply hilarious. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Laughter came from the crowd, and the rest quickly glanced across the square. Sure enough, except for Qin Chen, the black stone chambers of the others had no problems. Upon hearing the words, Great Qi Kingdom, Xiao Zhan's brow furrowed instantly, a hint of worry surfacing in his eyes. Logically, with Qin Chen's strength, at the human level, accidents were virtually impossible. Yet now, while everyone else was fine, the spirit lamp outside Qin Chen's stone chamber had lit up, clearly indicating that within the chamber, Qin Chen's control over human-level true energy had encountered a slight issue. It should just be an accident. Xiao Zhan shook his head, refusing to believe Qin Chen would face any problems at the human level. In his view, with Qin Chen's talent, even venturing into the profound level wouldn't be an issue, so how could he fail the human-level assessment? However, Xiao Zhan's confidence wasn't necessarily shared by others. One by one, they began to sneer. Moreover, they were quite puzzled. Just how low could a heaven-level martial artist's control be, to be unable to even control human-level true energy? This simply defied common sense. Actually, I heard that this Qin Chen was originally a good-for-nothing who couldn't even awaken his bloodline, only suddenly awakening it a few months ago, his cultivation advancing by leaps and bounds, and with the help of the blood spirit pool, he broke through from the human level to the heaven level in one fell swoop. Some individuals from the 5 kingdoms who knew Qin Chen's background whispered amongst themselves, immediately eliciting a realization from the crowd. No wonder he can't even control human-level true energy. Breaking through from the human level to the heaven level in a few months is akin to forcing growth, inevitably leading to an unstable foundation. These Northwest 5 kingdoms truly are backwater regions, not even understanding this basic principle, actually doing something like this. Martial artist breakthroughs should be like accumulating small steps, requiring gradual progress. Excessively consuming breakthrough pills to force growth might allow a martial artist's cultivation to improve in a short period, but it's ultimately not the proper path, only leading to situations like this. Like this Qin Chen, although he's at the heaven level, he can't even control human level true energy. Just watch. This person might not even be able to pass the first stage and will be eliminated immediately. Ha ha, ha ha ha. The crowd discussed animatedly, mocking relentlessly, especially the people from the Great Wei dynasty, who felt an even stronger sense of superiority. At this moment, Qin Chen, located within the black stone chamber, naturally couldn't hear the crowd's discussions. His body was currently entering a peculiar state. The mutual fusion between true energies is actually a process of fusion between particles. Particles with different attributes naturally require more energy to fuse and may even produce conflicts, but as long as you control the balance between the two, even two completely conflicting true energies can achieve a stable state. Qin Chen concentrated his mind, staring at the empty space before him, his mind clear. Under his control, his powerful spiritual perception rapidly combined the various true energy particles in front of him, which were of different shapes and conflicted with each other, as if caressing something intimately familiar, his entire action flowing smoothly and filled with beauty. Although Qin Chen in his previous life had reached the 8th order martial emperor realm, he possessed incredibly astonishing control over human-level true energy. However, it still couldn't compare to the scene before him. This scene, which directly allowed him to observe the microscopic manifestations of true energy particles, allowed Qin Chen to gain a more intuitive understanding of the control of true energy. At this moment, he was completely immersed in it, integrated into the reactions between the true energies, each step combined with Qin Chen's original understanding, complementing and reinforcing each other. If Qin Chen's control of true energy had already reached a peak in the past, then now, Qin Chen had gained a more thorough understanding on top of this so-called peak. Before, he knew what it was, but now, he knew why it was. In an instant, every strand of true energy in the entire black stone chamber was as easy to command as an arm, and no matter how many strands appeared, they were skillfully manipulated by Qin Chen, each fusion reaching the most perfect state, becoming an experiment for Qin Chen to verify the attributes of true energy. The people outside who wanted to see Qin Chen make a fool of himself were now extremely disappointed. This Qin Chen has actually stabilized. TSK, it seems impossible to see him fail in the first stage. You're thinking too much. No matter what, this person is still a heaven-level martial artist, not to the point where he can't even control human-level true energy. That's true, but for this person to challenge young Master Lixian, he's simply courting death. The crowd sneered. Suddenly, beep. Amidst the discussions, a soft sound rang out, and a spirit lamp lit up on top of every black stone chamber. First stage, all passed. Within the black stone chamber, the scene in front of Qin Chen changed, and his perception suddenly increased dramatically. The true energy in front of him had obviously become much stronger. This is profound level true energy. Profound level true energy was obviously stronger than human level true energy, and the power between the true energy particles had also become more terrifying. Qin Chen once again fell into comprehension, his whole being integrated into the scene before him, analyzing and understanding the essence of profound level true energy. After entering the profound level true energy stage, someone immediately entered a state of failure. Although those who could enter the ancient southern capital were all martial artists above the heaven level, not all heaven level martial artists had reached the extreme in their control of profound level true energy. The first to fail isn't the Qin Chen, but other martial artists from the Northwest Five Kingdoms. What's going on? Qin Chen couldn't completely control human level true energy, so why hasn't he failed with profound level true energy instead? The crowd was stunned, unable to understand. Don't worry, this person will fail soon. Someone sneered. However, the outcome disappointed him. By the end of the second stage, more than a dozen people had failed, but Qin Chen still hadn't made any mistakes. Entering the third stage, the difficulty immediately increased dramatically. In an instant, at least 20 people failed. The true energy in the third stage is heaven-level true energy. Among these 100 martial artists undergoing the assessment, at least more than half are only heaven-level martial artists, so their control over heaven-level true energy naturally hasn't reached the limit, and it's normal to fail. Now it depends on how far they can persevere. Upon reaching the third stage, the people on the plaza and outside the ancient southern capital immediately became nervous. The probability of being eliminated in the first two stages was already extremely low, but this third stage would be a dividing line. Once passed, this first assessment would be considered complete, and once failed, they would be directly eliminated, missing out on the subsequent assessments. Under the crowd's attention, a series of wailing sounds rang out, and soon, the number of people who failed climbed to nearly 50. On the field, nearly half of the 100 black stone chambers had spirit lamps flashing wildly. What puzzled everyone was that Qin Chen, who had failed in the first stage, still hadn't failed by now. Just as they were feeling depressed. Bang! A loud sound came from one side of the plaza, a black stone chamber suddenly opened, and a genius from the Five Kingdoms walked out of the black stone chamber in a disheveled state, looking dejected. Buzz! As soon as this person was eliminated, an invisible force enveloped him, and the entire person instantly disappeared from the plaza. Clang! Heavily falling onto the open space outside ancient southern capital, the eliminated martial artist stared blankly at the black figure above, feeling extremely frustrated. Although he was eliminated, ancient southern capital shouldn't be so eager to teleport him out, giving him no preparation at all. That Qin Chen wasn't the first to be eliminated. This is too lucky, right? Who is this guy? Among the 5 nations, there's actually someone whose control over true qi is weaker than the Qin Chen. What a waste. The martial artists from the Great Wei dynasty looked at the eliminated martial artist, looking extremely frustrated. What they wanted to see most was Qin Chen's embarrassment, but they were disrupted by such a guy. How could they not be annoyed? The eliminated person, upon hearing this, felt even more frustrated, almost spitting blood. But he didn't dare to say a word, and could only slink back to where his force was located. At this moment, inside ancient southern capital, as soon as that person was eliminated, a beam of light descended immediately, relocking onto a martial artist. Under the command of the black figure, that martial artist entered the black stone chamber, beginning a new assessment. In the arena, there were only 100 black stone chambers in total, but there were as many as 600 martial artists who needed to be assessed. Therefore, once someone was eliminated, a new martial artist would enter the black stone chamber, until everyone had finished the assessment. Since someone has been eliminated, then the Qin Chen should be close, right? Everyone once again looked towards the black stone chamber where Qin Chen was, but to their frustration, let alone being eliminated, Qin Chen's stone chamber didn't even have any mistakes at this moment. Everyone was puzzled. How could Qin Chen, who couldn't even control human-level true qi, have such a high control over heaven-level true qi? He hasn't made a single mistake so far. You must know that at this moment, there are already more than 60 martial artists who have made mistakes in the entire square, and even this number is gradually rising. Those who can persist without making a single mistake are basically only the top geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty, such as Hua Qiandu, Leng Wushuang, and Dai Tianyi. Bang! 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 Just as everyone was puzzled, a series of booming sounds rang out again in the square, and several more contestants were eliminated. As soon as these people were eliminated, it was as if a domino had been pushed over, and a series of booming sounds immediately rang out in the square, and eventually, one after another, contestants were constantly being eliminated. However, people didn't pay attention to those eliminated contestants at all, and still focused their attention on the black stone chamber where Qin Chen was. To their disappointment, the spirit lamp outside Qin Chen's black stone chamber had been lit, representing the signal for the third level, and it had not changed at all. Finally, after nearly 40 people were eliminated, the spirit lamps on all the black stone chambers changed, turning into the appearance of the fourth level, and all the remaining contestants entered the fourth level. No way! That Qin Chen actually passed the third level. Am I seeing things? Qin Chen's luck shouldn't be this good, right? He can even pass the first round of assessment with such luck. Everyone was dumbfounded. According to the requirements, in this first round, it is considered passing the assessment as long as one can enter the fourth level of martial Dao truth. At this time, of the 100 martial artists who participated in the assessment earlier, there are now only 57 people left. All 57 of these people have entered the fourth level, which means that these 57 martial artists are qualified to enter the second round of assessment in ancient southern capital. Perfectly entering the fourth level, why did Qin Chen make a mistake in the first level before? Everyone stared blankly at the black stone chamber where Qin Chen was, muttering in their mouths. They were still constantly mocking Qin Chen before, but now, many people have faintly felt a trace of something wrong in their hearts. Since the mistake in the first level, Qin Chen has shown a perfect state in the second and third levels. Everyone doesn't think that Qin Chen can pass these 3 levels by luck. Especially in this third level, which represents the heaven level true qi, even some veteran heaven level late stage peak martial artists dare not say that they can definitely control the heaven level true qi to the extreme, but Qin Chen didn't even make a single mistake, which is obviously unreasonable. People were constantly being eliminated, and new people were constantly entering the black stone chamber. The entire square was extremely lively, but what everyone was paying attention to was still the black stone chamber where Qin Chen was. It's already at the fourth level, the profound level true qi realm. He should be eliminated, right? Bang! 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 The fourth level represents the profound level true qi. For most of the heaven-level martial artists in the arena, the difficulty has instantly increased several times. Only a series of booming sounds could be heard constantly, and people were constantly being eliminated and walking out of the black stone chamber. However, although they were eliminated, they were not teleported out, but continued to stay in the square. was that the feeling of profound level true power just now. True Qi breaking through to true power is actually such a process. Yu Changxu and others, after being eliminated, each had their eyes flickering, and they were excited in their hearts. After the assessment of martial Dao truth, although they failed to persist in the fourth level, they knew the feeling of true power and the essence of true power operation. The cultivation of most of them has stagnated at the late stage peak of the heaven level. For them, the real difficulty is not knowing how to transform the true Qi in their bodies into true power. Now, after the assessment of martial Dao truth, each of them is ecstatic in their hearts, as if they have received countless inspirations. In an instant, they even had the urge to break through on the spot. Immediately, one by one, they sat cross-legged, closed their eyes and rested their minds, entering cultivation. Therefore, in the entire square, all the geniuses who were eliminated in the fourth level sat cross-legged as soon as they came out, closed their eyes and cultivated, which was a spectacular sight. Along with the continuous elimination of geniuses, after a while, of the first batch of contestants who entered the black stone chamber in the entire square, only a dozen or so were left. These dozen or so people have basically broken through to the fourth order profound level, and most of them are geniuses of the Great Wei dynasty. As for the geniuses of the 5 nations, there are only 2 or 3. At the same time, in the black stone chambers where these dozen or so people are located, except for 4 stone chambers, the spirit lamps outside the other stone chambers are almost all flashing wildly, obviously making mistakes repeatedly, and may be eliminated at any time. These 4 stone chambers, without a doubt, 3 of them are Dai Qianyi, who are Qian Du, and Leng Wushuang respectively, and the other one is actually Qin Chen, whom everyone can't imagine. How is it possible? Even many of our Great Wei dynasty's early and even mid-stage profound level geniuses have made a lot of mistakes in this fourth level. Qin Chen is still perfectly controlling it until now. How did he, a heaven-level martial artist, do it? Looking around, except for Qin Chen, all the others who broke into the fourth level and have not yet been eliminated are all profound level geniuses. And Qin Chen, a heaven-level martial artist, can actually persist until now, making everyone dumbfounded. Unbelievable.